Survivors, welcome to the Free Fire Pro Series for North America. Participants will get the chance to showcase their skills and compete for their share of the $50,000 prize pool. This inaugural season will take place across 3 months in 4 unique phases: the Open Qualifier, the Group Stage, the Last Chance Qualifier, and the Finals. Teams will accumulate points throughout each of these stages, resetting for everyone at the start of each new phase. We will kick things off in the Open Qualifier. Teams from across the entire North American region will be split into lobbies of 12 teams, where survivors will battle it out for 6 games to earn their place in the next round. Teams will be awarded points for their in-game performance, including points for their final placement in the lobby, as well as their kills throughout the games. At the end of these games, the top teams from each lobby will move on to the round of 96. This round will feature new lobbies and 6 more games for each team. The teams that finish in the top 6 for their lobby will move on to a final qualifier round of 48, after which only 24 teams will be left standing to move on to the group stage. The group stage will be comprised of a 3-week season, with 2 game days each weekend. The teams promoted from the open qualifier will be placed into 4 groups of 6 teams each. Throughout the season, these groups will be paired on game days in a round-robin format, so that each group will face off against every other group in a 12-team lobby at least once. At the conclusion of the group stage, the top 8 teams from this stage will qualify directly to the finals. The bottom 4 teams in the overall standings will be dropped from the tournament, and the remaining teams will move on to the last chance qualifier. The last chance qualifier will see the teams placed 9th through 20th from the group stage compete in their final opportunity to qualify for the finals. Their bouts will take place over the course of 2 game days, with 6 games per day, all in a final bid to earn their shot at the championship. After this intense LCQ stage, only the teams in the top 4 will be able to move on to the finals. To cap things off, our grand finals will take place over the span of 3 days, with the top 12 teams from the tournament playing 6 games every day for a grand total of 18. Here, teams must go all out to earn points and stake their claim as the inaugural Free Fire Pro Series champions. At the end of the 3 game days, the 12th finalist will receive their share of the $50,000 prize pool, and a North American champion will be crowned.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching around the world. Welcome to the Free Fire Pro Series North America final day of group stages. My name is Toffees. I am joined by the intrepid Godspeed as we break down all of the action and teams make a play to prove that they are the best to deserve a spot in the grand finals. It's not the end for everyone, though, Dustin. The LCQ is just around the corner, where everyone but the bottom 4 will have a chance to make a name for themselves. But the reality today is you want to be in the top 8. You get the automatic bid to the Free Fire Pro Series Grand Final. Last chance qualifier is going to be brutal. It's 12 teams dropping in and hoping that they can be in the top 4. You've played at some of the highest levels that Battle Royale has to offer, Godspeed. Tell me about the stress and how important it is to get into that top 8 today.
I mean, it's incredibly important, right? This is what it all comes down to. You don't want to have to go through an LCQ. As someone who's been through LCQs before and games that I've played, it's probably the most stressful situation. Even if you're doing well in the LCQ, 1 or 2 bad games could potentially make you slip up, and then that's it. As you are in the last chance qualifier, there's not going to be many opportunities or any opportunities at that fact to go to the grand finals. And specifically in this game, with with only 12 teams essentially being in that grand final, it is imperative that teams just make it in the top 8. Don't have to worry about LCQ. Can prep up for whatever's going to come their way in the grand finals, and just be ready to win big.
Absolutely. And there are going to be some teams as we get to the overall leaderboards. We'll show you guys throughout the day that essentially have qualified. We are going to be watching groups B and D take the field this evening. That's 12 teams total. A and C are done and dusted. So they are basically sitting back and watching. They had their chance, Dustin, and now they have to leave their future, their dreams, their hopes, their goals in the hands of 2 other groups. What is it like to be A and C sitting at home right now?
Well, if you're A and C and you're one of the teams at the top, like La Bahia or R15 or La Uno or IT Official, you don't really care. I mean, for the most part, you're fairly safe. That being said, I mean, there is a team or 2 that could potentially surge and maybe push some of those teams down. Specifically, I'm looking at 90, who's already in 8th, maybe push a couple teams down as well. North Blood Fuego. So if you're on one of the teams on the bottom, unfortunately, especially if you're Syndicate, I mean, I mean, let's be honest, you're probably going to be either going to LCQ or just not going to
Yeah.
qualify at all. So that is a reality that some of these teams have to face. And for the other teams that are, again, in the running, this is an opportunity to avoid LCQ relegation.
Absolutely. If this was poker, syndicate, and Death Academy, what we call dead money, they don't have a chance of qualifying at this point for the LCQ as they've played everything that they can play. Butcher and TM Dominican are going to be an interesting story. TM Dominican has a very long way to climb, and you've seen them play. You've been watching the VODs. Do you think these guys have what it takes to climb out of the bottom 4 in 6 games today?
I really don't want to just count them out, but it really does seem like, especially compared to even some of the other teams that have struggled but still show signs of life, it doesn't seem like they figured out the kind of the BR structure yet, right? They're still kind of getting used to it. They are getting kind of picked apart, nickel and dimed everywhere. Their rotations really aren't the cleanest. That being said, they could have watched the VODs just like we did, check the tapes, review all that, and make a surge. I don't want to count them out, but I mean, it's going to be, they have to win basically every game and kill the lobby, entirely.
I'm not going to count them out, but I'm definitely not going to deal them in. On the opposite side, we've got some teams here in B and D that are honestly like Invalidos at a position where they can just free farm the lobby. I mean, if you find yourself in a tournament where you are just pretty much qualified with 6 games left to play, what do? Do you try to learn, maximize your point totals? What do you do when you're already at the top with 6 left to go?
Yeah, for a team like Invalidos, it's pretty much guaranteed at this point. I would say maybe even try new things, right? They're very solid. They're a very consistent team. They've been controlling the edge very well, and they haven't. I see you, Steve. No, they've been really good, and this might be an opportunity, as you said, since they are guaranteed to try something new. Maybe try to play aggressive in a way they don't. Maybe a rotation that they want to try out for going into the grand finals. And I think this is a very valid place for them to do something like that because they've been very, very solid in the way that they've been playing, which is why they're at the top of the leaderboard.
Game 1 is underway as we head to Purgatory, and a couple of teams head over to get that high loot over there in the blue circle. For those of you maybe just joining us learning Free Fire for the first time, that is a up loot location. Basically, better loot, better benefits, but gonna be contested a large portion of the time. We have other teams that are going to the drops that they prefer. What do you like to do here, Gosby? Do you prefer a drop that you've practiced at, that you've trained at, and that you know? Or do you go for those high loot blue areas?
The loot in this game, even in the in the non-high loot areas, is still pretty solid. So preferably something central or something that can give you a good rotation. Obviously, the map. Oh, wait a second. TDM already getting shot at. This is going to be a nice little hot drop here by DA. And that's the thing I actually really love about this game, Steve, is there are hot drops everywhere, all the time, nonstop in Free Fire, and it is glorious.
It absolutely is. You love to see the action. And it's going to jump out right away. And that is the danger of going to these areas. You know there's going to be another team. But honestly, if you believe in yourself and you know you've got the skill, as it looks like Karama and the boys believe that they do, taking these early fights isn't necessarily a bad thing. Extra points on the board are extra points on the board. There's the time turner. Buys him a little space. Frega's going to be able to get upstairs instead of taking that fight. Eliezer here doing some nice shooting as he tries to hold for his team. DA drops back to the side of the fight zone, and they're kind of trying to lock up the escape, trying to decide, I think, if they want to go at this with a flank or just fade away. They don't have water to their back, so they have the option to extract.
I mean, the only issue I really do still have with this hot drop, though, if I'm being honest, is the fact that Death Academy and TM Dominican, I mean, these are the teams that are on the bottom, right? These are teams that desperately need points, and hot dropping each other and just kind of losing members early may not be the answer, as we see a first split happening off the stream there. But yeah, this is a fight that I would actually kind of like one of the teams to back off on and try to maximize on the amount of points they can get, especially if you're on the bottom of the leaderboard like these two guys.
Yeah, you got to wonder if this is the strategy that they've been using. Is that why they're on the bottom of the leaderboard?
Yeah.
These fights early, if you don't know you can dominate, is always a risk. On the other hand, when you talk about pro play, this is the inaugural season of the Pro Series. Get better. And the best way to get better is to get in there and take fights with the best of the best. And this is a chance for you to maybe cut those teeth. So if these guys think maybe LCQ's kind of not an option for them, maybe doing some hot drops, maybe going and testing their skills and getting better for next season is a good opportunity. Brega up on the high grounds, got that shotgun out and ready, using that third person perspective peek to get a little bit of information. Sees sees them across the way, but obviously that peek's gonna be difficult. There's the downstairs.
Oh, that
Rega
was
drops down. There it is. Oh, time turner. Perfectly executed. Rega turns and runs, but he got the cooldown running on that. Karama coming to help, runs up the stairs, tips the fan away, gets out the gun. Elzer up on the top floors, got that UMP, goes for the straight back. Karama trying to make the fight. He goes down. Can't make it happen. TDM from the distance. Their support has been strong, and now Elzer's got to fall away. Domini still alive. Karama is going to get flushed, and that will be 2 down for TDM.
And I don't think D8 lost a single member, did they? I think they're still
right.
clean. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe this is a strategy from these guys coming out, as we see Ludi up there with his glue wall. Maybe this is kind of a strategy that these teams thought they need, right? Okay, we have, realistically, our chances of qualifying aren't that great. Maybe we just need to try to hot drop, get as many kills as possible, and try to win the game, which is a very valid strategy for these teams that are kind of on the bottom end. But meanwhile, moving over, Osaka, C7 getting into it.
Yeah, absolutely. As they try to make the play here, C7 on the downhill, glue walls aplenty. The push is on. Time turner to buy a little bit of extra space. It's absolute chaos as Osaka becomes the new kill leader and wipes out C7. What a tough place to fight. Almost zero cover. And the only cover there besides glue walls is if you're coming up the hill. So it's not even really cover because you're still getting a little bit of a dome peak there.
Yeah,
so that is going to be brutal.
They had these little pillars to work with Steve, which, I mean, let's be honest, was not much. But that was a very clean wipe coming out of Osaka. Again, we saw all those glue walls as we headed into that fight coming in late. And Osaka, again, another one of those teams that didn't necessarily have the best day in the last group stages that I was casting they were in. But, I mean, they had signs of really good team fights, and they just showed it there.
Absolutely. I mean, you gotta see it. They're one of those teams that wants to maintain a good point total coming in today at 110 points in 9th place. They need to put up a performance to guarantee that top 8 for advance. That's going to be everybody's focus as they enter game number 1. 9D, cleverly named if I say so, is going to be moving along the outside of the map. We go to DA, Death Academy, 3 remaining after that early fight, TD with TDM, that is still sort of going. The last member of TDM has decided that it is not worth sticking around, and he is going to try to get away, but is already taking fire. 1 tap, 2 tap. There is no 3 tap, though. Will manage to get himself out of a sticky situation.
I see what you did there, but he is unfortunately not having as much fun as we are because he is the last member of his team, and again, another really bad placement for them could just, almost but guarantee them at this point into the LCQ. So let's see what they can do with that. Meanwhile, DA with at least 2 kills. Still 3 members alive as well, with a chance to make something happen, at the very least get more kills and make it harder for some of the other teams who may think they're safe. As we do see, this is a circle that is on the north side, and most teams are in, actually, except for the few on the south side. Obviously, N8, 9D, as well as DA need to make it in.
So the circle went to the north side of the map. This is a map that I think plays particularly well from northwest to southeast. A lot of teams, however, did drop on the island, so they're going to have to be moving sort of the opposite of the flow of the map, which could prove challenging for some of those teams that choose to go down towards Fire Brigade or Lumber Mill. It is a longer path to follow, and there's not a lot of ways to cross the river. So we'll see if that slows down teams that are looking to get towards the middle. As we check in with Axel and the rest of his team here, just holding positions. A lot of this in Free Fire. When you get to this mid-game, it's about finding a good spot. A lot of teams seem to prefer that center model where they can kind of lock down and just wait for the action to come to them. What do you like? I know that we're seeing other teams, Invalidos is a good example of that, who's dominating, who are just good old-fashioned edge smashers. Do you like that edge smash, or do you think going in the middle and playing for the numbers is the way to dominate?
That's actually a really good question. I generally do prefer edge just because you can corner out a piece of the map for yourself. You know your back is clean and you can work in, well, specifically with terrain if you get it, right? If some of the circles you just want to be circled, generally just because, you have the most cover, you have 360 degrees sightlines on the teams coming around you, and you're generally going to be more safe. But for a team like Northblood, for instance, we were just looking, they're a very competent edge style team, right? They do a great job cleaning up the edge. They carve out, like I said, that side of the circle for themselves, and then they work in, and they're very frag heavy. So I think for a stronger team, we'll generally see them on the edge, like Invalidos, like your Club 9Ds, again, like your Northbloods. But for some of the teams that maybe struggle, we may find them in the center.
Now, the airship, you saw it's on its way. We saw some very large-scale massacres based around this airdrop coming in here, because it doesn't, there's no rule that they're going to drop this crate somewhere that has cover. In fact, twice yesterday I saw it dropped in the wide open, and teams are going for it. That's one of those questions that you have to ask yourself, risk versus reward, Godspeed, because everyone sees it coming. Yes, the weapons are nice, but at the end of the day, I don't know at the late stage of a tournament like this, when you need to get to that top 8, that taking the risk for high kill potential is worth giving up safety. I mean, at the end of the day, Maslow's hierarchy of needs says just survive.
That's true, but that's also kind of the 40 chest that occurs with crate drops, right? Or when you see those airships coming in, everyone has the same thought, right? There's like, oh, everyone's going to go for it. It might be too dangerous. And in reality, what happens is nobody goes for it because everyone has the same mentality of they don't want to get caught. So sometimes it's worth just to check out where that, where it goes, if it's worth it, how many teams are actually going to get involved. And as I say that, Xeno is going to find a knock onto Blesser, and that's going to be a flush as well. So Northblood now in a little bit of trouble here. Is Invalidos a nice little kill?
Invalidos, this is the team that is currently in the lead from these two groups. And you might think to yourself, you're playing this at home. Man, that guy snipes like a boss. How do I do that? Well, you don't. He's just better. Practice makes perfect, I guess. So hopefully one day you can get there too. But Invalidos has proven time and time again that they are experts at this game and are setting themselves up for what I think is going to be a long career here at the Pro Series.
At the very least, starting up with the glue wall here as they're coming out of the blue zone, and 9D is not letting up. I actually really like this setup for 9D. And this is exactly what they are fantastic at. This is what they excel at, is setting up these traps and springing them, putting up a lot of damage to Invalidos, but still though knocks, and Invalidos doing a really good job of defending against is actually coming out of the blue.
All right, going to jump over here as 9D pushes forward. Good cover from his teammates. And that's the big key, is they're trying to leapfrog their way towards this fight. I'm not, I like that they're going so aggressive against a team that historically has been dominant. And Jury shows that the decision is in, and he gets himself a nice knock. The glue wall will be able to be put up, though, and potentially the res should be available here. As you can see, Millsy goes out to the right side to provide a little bit of distraction. And allow that res to go for his team. The value of the glue walls cannot be understated. This is something that was added by Free Fire to really help Battle Royale make up for some of the, mobile. Sometimes there's not as much cover as you'd like to see. And glue walls not only allow cover in fights, but strategic usage of it. And these teams have mastered the art.
I mean, absolutely. Aside from just using them as, kind of raw cover, one or done here or there, we actually see teams kind of make almost these structures with these glue walls, right? They make these kind of intricate shapes. We've seen them use I've seen players barricade themselves in a glue wall and make really cool plays out of it. Griffo, actually from Red Fox, is one of those players that's been really kind of using them in an innovative way. And so I actually really like glue walls, specifically because, yes, as you mentioned, there's not a lot of cover, especially in some circles where it can be brutal and there just is no cover at all. It's another layer added to the game that I think brings a lot to it.
Absolutely. And it is a finite resource. If you blow them all in a fight, you got to go around and start gathering them again. Keeping in mind, I want to touch on this. 9D and Invalidos were the two teams we just watched fight. Those are teams at the top leaderboard. Invalidos is in second. Club 9D is in third going into today. They have nothing to lose and bragging rights to gain. So expect that fight to continue as we jump over to Esteban and NB as they try to push up here. It's a team that looks like firmly entrenched in a more powerful compound.
Yeah, ZRJ is, they're one of those teams that they kind of like to just set up, and they're not necessarily an edge team. This is kind of one of those teams actually you're asking about that like to stay in the center, but right now doing a good job of really sticking it to Northblood. Oh my goodness, going for the push. That's going to be an untreated knock.
Let's go to ZRJ as they try to deal with Northblood. Northblood outside of the zone as the bush tries to run. Never trust a running bush. I learned that as a young person, and I stand by that today. ZRJ is going to try to extract themselves from what's become a rough situation heading uphill. This is beneficial for them, though, because New Blood doesn't know the speed of extraction, so they're going to have to move up a little bit slower, and ZRJ can stay in front of the closing zone and allow the zone to do some of the work for them. You can see how fast it's starting to tick down as Esteban now being forced to stay inside of that damage area as he rotates out. They're going to have to come out by either burning a lot of their utility or come out at half health where ZRJ is going to be waiting for them.
Yeah, but at the very least, I will say Northblood has done an amazing job of actually thwarting that trap, right? Because it looked very much like ZRJ could have made something happen, even got more wipes. In fact, they actually got it turned around on them, and Northblood was able to knock two. So again, Northblood, one of those teams that they're comfortable to play on the edge, Steve. They don't mind if you set a trap, especially if they can kind of sense it coming. And it did seem like they approached that slowly, so they were able to spring that trap and actually turn it around on their opponents. And ZRJ, yeah, they're just one of those teams that set these traps a lot and
they're in a tougher position. They need to run away. They're in 13th coming into today. Northblood is essentially qualified. So ZRJ cannot get stuck in sort of what we saw from Imbolitos and 9D, which is a self-fulfilling destruction, mutually assured, right? They have to try to survive into the late game. Now we're going to jump over to HR. Atalo is going to be caught off guard by DA. He pops that time turner and goes for the burn, but the counter turn, and now it's just a bunch of bubbles and a heck of a lot of bullets.
Goodness.
Blue walls aplenty. The chaos is
Escobar's still alive.
Atalo tries to make it happen. Escobar somehow still alive. We got the snipers on the outside. Another time turner pops up. No one really knows where they are. Burns through the glue wall. There we go. Escobar keeps replacing it. This man is a glue wall monster, and he's just annoying HR High Religion as they try to make this play.
That was absolute madness. The fact that Escobar survived as long as he did in that little glue wall, like fortress. That's kind of what I was talking about with these players finding really interesting ways to use that. But even still, Escobar was isolated, so isolated from the rest of his team. And because of that, they actually got picked off one by one. And Luddy, with last member alive, really couldn't do much, especially against those time turners. And now, unfortunately, both teams and the remnants of have to deal with 90 just sitting up on the hill.
And that's it. 9D is just going to sit there. This is, like we said, a team that is essentially qualified. They can afford to waste time and farm bodies. What a throw. Perfectly executed grenade. And that will be a triple kill for Exploit as HR has to use... I mean, it's High Religion, but I don't know if their prayers are panning out because they are eliminated. Let's jump over to another fight here as we go back to ZRJ.
Unbelievable. And wow, just like that. ZRJ, it all started with that fight trying to hold on to Northblood. And Northblood just completely turned around. They got crippled in that two-man squad, and yeah, it just didn't work out. Meanwhile, Osaka now getting in fights, getting involved. I do love the one thing about Osaka is they like to sit at range and pelt teams, and that's probably one of the best things that they've kind of been able to incorporate in their strategy.
And, you know, you say we range and pelt, but they're also good at push and spray. It's like they've put two players on the back to make sure that there's cover as their advanced team goes in, and they just use those UMPs and absolutely melt whoever their target is. So very clean play from Osaka, as they have been definitely putting in some serious hustle. They need to do that. They came in today in 9th place overall, top 8 advanced. So they have to gain ground on teams like High Religion, who are barely ahead of them, but are at the current point passing, right? So they need to not only have good games, but put up some decent numbers to get some gains.
Absolutely. And actually, that was a really disgusting shot coming out of Jeremy on Fuego here. And Griffo, very close to going down. Griffo's been an absolute stud for this squad as well. So that's going to be a huge loss. But now, shots being returned. Red Falcon's doing quite a bit of damage. Both those knocks are going to get picked up, but even still, Red is not letting up at all. And these nades coming out, these glue walls potentially getting destroyed. Time turners are out. Steve, they're in trouble.
They are. They're using everything they have to try to stay alive, and unfortunately for them, Falcons just have unlimited, it feels like, utility. They just keep dumping on him. Fuego, as much as they can, trying to survive, but look at that, it just keeps coming. Grenade launcher after grenade after grenade launcher. How many glue walls can you have as Fuego's just stuck? Like, they haven't even tried to counterattack.
How could they, right? With all the grenades and the grenade launcher. I mean, that was just a barrage, an assault. As they're now pushing, Justin's been so solid, but he's going to go down. Calvin's going to fight him, and now OSK, Osaka from the top.
Osaka with some nice play up here on the mountain as they go around, get behind that glue wall, but it doesn't work. He goes down, and now they're going to try to make a follow-up push. Red Falcons, meanwhile, did lose that fight to Fuego. They were eliminated, crazily enough, and down goes a Butcher. That is it.
Wow.
That's Booyah, baby. And that is Free Fire in a nutshell. That's why we talk about that sort of get to center position versus playing edge. The end of these games are chaotic, Godspeed. There is something to be said for, get some points when you can, because when it comes down to that final circle or two, it could be anybody's game.
It really could. I will say though that Osaka played that. I mean, this is what Osaka likes to do, right? They
Mhm.
like to sit from the back at a distance, do as much damage as possible. Then, if they have to fight, sure they'll push in. But the other
Mhm.
thing that affords them is the fact that they generally don't have to burn a lot of their utility, right? They have their
Yeah.
glue walls, they have their time turners. It's something that they don't have to really invest a lot in, simply because they're not in these fights. They're the ones third partying these fights, and because of that, I mean, that was clean. I don't even
It
think they
was.
lost a single member altogether. So Osaka with an amazing job that game.
Yeah, because I don't think that flush went out. And if you, the reason it ended, I think, so quickly is we saw that fight between Red Falcons and Fuego
Mhm.
below the high ground.
Right.
Red Falcons was fighting out of the blue. Fuego was right on the edge of it, that's why Fuego wasn't moving. They knew that they had technically the anchor position. Falcons had to start moving because that damage is so high at the end. And ultimately, what happened is the fight went to Fuego, but the circle moved too quickly, and Fuego died to the damage
Yeah.
of the circle. And so once that happens, all of a sudden a team, on the other side of the circle goes, oh, I guess we just won.
I guess I
Surprise.
guess we just went like that. Oh, plus the fact that Red Falcons was absolutely tearing apart Fuego
Yeah.
with the grenades and the utility that they had there. So, yeah, that was probably a little surprising as well for Osaka. They're like, wait,
Mm.
we just fought Northblood. What about the other two
Right?
teams? But I mean, hey, you take those and look at that 14
Wow.
kills for Osaka. You love to see it.
Yeah, Osaka came to play. They needed to put up some numbers. We said they started today in ninth place, getting 26 points to start today is going to be absolutely massive. Team Butcher, another team that needed to show up and put up today, comes in second, 4 kills, but a good point total. And Red Falcons does get the 5 off the back of that sort of battle with Fuego that we saw there at the end. Ultimately, I think Fuego won the fight, but not the wars. They only got 2 kills overall. Club 9D, the rich get richer, I guess, in that context.
Yeah.
That's a team that's already at the top of the leaderboard as they put more on the docket. And I will say this. We talked at that start about TM Dominican and Death Academy going head to head. TM Dominican got to 6th place, 7 points because they took that hot drop risk.
Yeah, and again, that might be the strategy, right? At the very least, maybe knowing that they're going to go into an LCQ situation, maybe they just go for it. Maybe they just practice, their fragging, their team fighting abilities. That's a very valid strategy, and that's something that they could do. I mean, teams like, as you said, 9D, they could essentially drop goose eggs for the rest of this, and it'd totally be fine. And so there really isn't a lot of pressure, and even still, they played really well coming out of the blue. So, I mean, this is a dangerous lobby. Team Butcher, as you said, they were just around, I think, 75 points before the start of this week, and Team Butcher absolutely has a chance to make it in as well. So if they can continue to rack up points, they could maybe dodge the LCQ. We'll see.
Now, when we sign up for this event, we don't ask the players to tell us their careers, but I would assume that if we asked Luis to do it, he would say farmer because 8 kills is obscene. Osaka not only played out of their minds, but on the back of his anchor, that is just a ridiculous amount of takedowns. I mean, compared to that, the second place is all tied 3. Like there's no kills left out there for other teams.
Nope. And again, from a high ground position, somewhere where they can absolutely just kind of rain hell down the other teams. I mean, that's exactly what Osaka likes to do. I mean, this again is right in their wheelhouse, and I really like this. They don't take unnecessary risks. They're still able to get a good amount of kills and play as aggressive as they want. And again, Osaka has also had a lot of success fighting against teams like Invalidas, where they've had clean wipes on them in the past. And Invalidas is absolutely one of the best teams in the lobby. So, I mean, Osaka is putting in work, and Luis specifically is. I mean, what
Yeah,
else
I
is
mean,
there to say?
Luis basically wiped only 12 teams drop. Luis himself wiped 2 of them.
Yeah.
Osaka cleaned out a quarter of the lobby. So these guys are out there just hustling. Let's take a look at the overall leaderboard for the group stages. So keep in mind, B and D is playing. Anyone with an A or a C is done and dusted. They have had their chance. Their scores will not change. B and D are going to be on the climb. So do not write them off if they're not doing well just yet. But the reality is, the climb has been good. We talked about Osaka, for instance, needing to get some points. They came in a little bit lower than they wanted to today, and they are going to be in 11th with 136 right now as they continue to move up the boards. Northblood also going to be in a good spot as they had a pretty good game with those 7 points. Fuego also moving into the cutoff. So this is going to continue to climb as these teams play it very, very well.
And I think if you are Wasaka Esport, you are kind of sweating a little bit because all those teams that you just mentioned, Northblood, Osaka, Fuego, I mean, they're not even knocking on the door. They're pretty much got their foot in at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And if they continue to rack up those points, Wasaka may be falling out of it.
Absolutely. I'm gonna we're going to make sure we track that leaderboard throughout the day today. I know the lobby is filling up for the next match. As we look at Death Academy right now, they are still below the cutoff. Their rivals managed to move above it in the last. Actually, I'm sorry, no, they didn't. Death Academy and TM Dominican are still both at that 23 and 24 position.
Mm-hmm.
We saw 7 points last time for DA. Do you think that strategy, they need to maintain it?
I honestly would really like to see them not hot drop. I really want to see what that team can do when they actually have 4 up. They've looted and they're making a nice rotation into the circle. Again, I feel like Death Academy has been involved in a lot of hot drops, which is probably why they are so low on the leaderboard as it is. And yeah, I want to see something different from them. I want to see what they can do in an endgame situation when they have at least 3 to 4 up and really kind of push the pace and get more than just a couple points off a hot drop, because it's very clear that has not been working for them so far.
All right. I know that the game is about to get underway. The background is turned yellow and probably one of the best indicators I've ever seen, but also the plane has taken to the air. We've got one more round in purgatory. And for some of these teams, it has felt like a gateway to hell as they can't seem to put anything together. For others, like Invalidos and Club 9D, this has been heaven. They seem to dominate on this map, and they have one more chance to do so before we move on to our next one. This is match 2 in the Free Fire Pro Series North America Group Stage's final day. Today, we crowned a top 8 who get to advance to the grand finals. Let's see how it goes as the drops are out. No one going for the high loot zone this time around.
Yeah, that's actually kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, we were just looking at Northblood, and I think a very interesting kind of statistic for this team is the fact that we did talk about how they're a very competent edge style team, but at the same time, I mean, even though they're kind of in the middle on kills, they find really decent placements, especially on Kalahari, which we will be visiting later.
Right.
But that's something to look out for, even for a team that, again, is solid on all the maps. Kalahari seems to be kind of their bread and butter, and I just want to see them get in a situation where they're not being chased by the blue as well as another team, and see how they set up in these circles.
It's all about the setup. And we saw that last time around. The way I think Osaka got a good position, was able to capitalize off of it. So we'll see if we see more teams moving towards the middle. And again, this is not a fine-tuned art by any means, Cosby. This is the inaugural season of the Pro Series. A lot of these players are trying to find that translation of ranked play to comp pro play. And that, I think, for anyone who's ever grinded leaderboards, is a very different thing when you talk about the quality of play in the lobbies and the sweatiness, for lack of a better word.
Sure. I mean, at the very least, getting into rank play and grinding that out, that will somewhat prepare you for what you may see at the higher echelons of the game, right? At the very, it's an entry, so to speak. That being said, once you do get into that level, if you're not constantly scrimming these guys and, kind of doing your homework and your research and constantly practicing just mechanically, then yes, going from that jump from rank to pro it's a very it's a very steep cliff to kind of climb immediately or in a very short amount of time, and you will you'll kind of get it handed to you, so to speak, in the beginning until you start to get your bearings.
Absolutely. Wait, did you say we have to do homework? This is video games, Godspeed. Are you telling me I should be doing research?
Yeah, if you want to play at the highest level, I would say you probably want to do some research on the other teams, figure out how they play, where they drop, what rotations they like to use, stuff like that will be very imperative in helping you, level up, so to speak.
I don't care for what you're telling me.
Then you know what? Pro play just isn't.
I'm going to send you a YouTube link to somebody saying I don't have to do research, okay? Okay? I'm just going to win because I'm awesome. Let's take a look at TBT. Blue here helping his buddy out, dropping a few things for them as they prepare to go in up against High Religion. High Religion was stuck in a pretty bad battle early on last time around, and it looks like that may happen again as they go for the loot. Not a lot of covering here. These are very wide open warehouses. You can see like Yard trying to sort of play that cover role as his buddy's loot. I like that he's doing this. He's watching for a threat, using that third-person perspective while the team loots the large open warehouse. So at least High Religion trying to keep each other covered. Now, let's check in with C7. We saw a team very nearby, but it does not look like a conflict is imminent as they seem to be waiting it out. 9D, however, if they smell anybody over here, if they even get a set of TM Dominican, they are going to try to farm them. So Elezier needs to be very, very careful.
This is actually something I find really interesting about 9D is Oh, look at this setup. You love to see it. He's actually not going to take the shots. Nice trigger discipline. They've only saw one. And at this point, especially if you're a team like 90 hanging out this far on the edge, you hopefully want to see at least a couple members so you have a better idea of what the team is doing. And 9D love to do this, Steve. They absolutely love to play, I mean, like hard edge. They like to come in late. They like to chase teams and really push the aggression in that type of way and put more pressure on a team, especially if they're running from a blue. So, yeah, this is very much in 90's wheelhouse, but I'm very worried at this point about their potential victims in TDM.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the key is that they are able to play this style because they have a mastery of the game, but they are having teams like this in your lobby is brutal because it doesn't ever feel like there's a safe way to rotate. Like right now, TDM, I don't think has any idea that he is under imminent threat of death. Uh-oh. 9D smells chum in the water.
Oh, wait.
C7 could be walking into a very, very rough surprise. Millsy in a good spot, going up and down. Looks like they can hear each other now. Ricky turns around and runs away. Ricky got the sound cue and said, nope.
Yeah, that's, I mean, especially when he's very clear. Yeah, they've both teams at this point have spotted each other, and Ricky is going to go down. He was
Ricky,
unfortunately
you're so fine. You blew your head off.
Well, I don't think that's how the song goes, but yeah,
it does for Ricky today.
Yeah, as the forward scout as he was for the team of C7, I mean that's just sometimes the harsh reality of being that members. You know, he kind of got lasered by the members of 9D, and now C7 know that there is a full team ahead of them, and they're going to back off. Go. I like this. Yeah,
it's smart. Club 9D is in 6th place currently, qualified for the grand final, essentially, unless something crazy happens. Meanwhile, C7 is in 21, trying to earn a spot. Ready for this? In the LCQ. They're not like there's not even a chance that they really feel like they're going to make top 8 unless they have some crazy games. They're just trying not to get eliminated. And when you're staring down the barrel of not only a team in the top 10, but a team whose names are on fire NBA Jam style, that means they are killing everyone in the lobby. Maybe it's best just to leave.
Oh, it's an absolute classic. NBA Jam. Love to hear it,
right?
But
love to hear it.
I actually really like that. No, that's really cool from a spectator perspective because as well, if you're just tuning in, you're like, oh, it seems like as though 9D is kind of on fire. And yes, that is absolutely the right decision for C7 to make. Back off, try to get in the circle another way. I mean, there's really no one on their side even. They can do it. Although we did see C7 kind of jockeying as if they still want to fight. The play is to back off, and that's exactly what they did. The one thing I also just noticed as well is that Elizer, that one member that, both teams were kind of scouting out. He's actually on his own. He's not even near his team. The rest of his team is somewhere north. They're actually so spread out. It's very odd from TDM.
Wow. Oh, somebody went to the bathroom. All right, and we go as it looks like High Religion now in the bottom of this building. They've got Fuego up on top. Fuego is going to be caught in a very tough camp out again. Comes down, busts the time turner, 1 and 2. But the push is on, uses that glue wall. I like the high place glue wall for the undershot there, as Fuego's able to lock them out of coming up. Basically, that was this. They held the stairs with glue walls and time turners.
And this fight can take place, or rather, they can take as much time as they need. Both teams still relatively in the circle, and they can just take their time. There's no reason to rush this. We do see Calvin get a knock on the Soporte.
Oh, no.
Nice trade.
It was. The glue walls got him stuck. He can't get in there to help his teammate. Axel and Uziel trying to get inside to make the assist. But Calvin goes for the res and gets shot in the back. Jabaited. Uziel has managed to make it inside as he goes up to the top floor. Fuego trying to make something happen. The reses do manage to go off as High Religion has managed to make it. Fuego out the window, down to 2, and running for the hills.
Yeah, that was kind of a risky res. I mean, you want to make sure that you at the very least clear out your house before you even start that, let alone the same floor, and that was kind of all over the place. Fuego will pay for it. Only 2 members up, and so far, High Religion actually doing a good job of holding this house. I mean, they still have 3. Yes, they lost 1, but they got a trade for 2, and that trade is really the most important thing.
So let's see how it goes. They have basically taken the top floor. Fuego leaves it behind and says, time to just get out of town. It looked like there was a bit of a discussion. Axel was thinking about staying and fighting it out, but Fuego can't afford that right now. No. It's a team that is currently in 8th place. They're tied with Northblood for that, by the way. They need to just maintain their point totals. They need to stay in that top 8, because I can tell you, I have covered esports for a long time, and one thing that any team will tell you is don't get stuck in the LCQ.
Yep. I mean, I just told you that when you asked
Yep.
me, and anyone you ask, including yourself. I mean, covering LCQs before in the past, you understand almost as well as players, is that LCQ it's a dangerous place to be, man. It's a really dangerous place to be. Some teams have nothing to lose. I mean, there's a lot of risky plays that you wouldn't expect, and it's hell. LCQ is hell. Don't if you can avoid
stress.
getting dropped down to LCQ, do it at all costs.
It's incredibly high stress. It's not where you want to sort of mentally be preparing for, knowing that's the end of your chances. Having the safety net, having the chance that, hey, if things go bad, I can still do the LCQ is actually really helpful. So never, these teams trying to make sure that they're not putting themselves in that position. C7 up by the containers, facing up against Fuego, who's just inside of the circle. Fuego is defending, but I don't think this is a fight they necessarily wanted to take. They're just kind of stuck in this position.
Oh, the
double glue wall to buy the space. I think that was a frantic glue more than a plan to double glue, as C7 is going to continue pushing forward, but it looks like they're going to go ahead and rotate out away. C7, also a team that needs to put big points. They're at 21st position right now, so they don't know that it's just two members of another team who's desperate to avoid fights. They have to treat it like someone who's willing to hunt and lose everything to fight them. They're going to bounce off. Grab a few mushrooms. Always nice to have a little bit of extra res. Right? Nothing says yummy like a fungi.
Yeah, but I mean, C7, as we know, lost Ricky early, and they've been coming in off of the edge, so they have no information really. I do hope, though, that they would at the very least keep track of the kill feed, right? See that Fuego had lost 2. Granted, there's no way for them to have known that was Fuego because they didn't get any knocks, but yes, that's, again, coming off... running in from the blue, getting in an early fight, losing a member as they did. They want to be careful here because they still have a chance, to maybe make a push here.
Right, and it is one of those things where, like, this is, again, it's new. This esport is just beginning, so teams may not have people like the infamous Adam Didiano who knows how to track kill feeds in his sleep, right? That's a skill that you develop over time, and I wonder how many of these teams do have that yet. If you're playing,
that's actually a good question,
If you're watching at home and you're like, how do I get better? How do I make my team thrive? That's the key, is especially at the start of a battle royale, teams that are able to gather and maintain information dockets better than the others are the ones who often come out on top. Now, we see Osaka. These guys dominated the last game. They're right back into getting it done here as they push up on C7.
But look at this again. Osaka on the high ground position, kind of scouting everything out around them, able to... Oh, that nade. Have been very dangerous, but yeah, look at that I mean, just clinical from Osaka. Wow, this team is just looking better and better from when we first saw them play.
Wow, you know what? I went into college registration last year and asked for a master's class in butt kicking, and they sent me to Osaka. So let's see if it continues. These guys have been absolutely destroying right now. Love to see it because it's a team that needs to hustle. They're in 11th place, but they're at 136. They are literally only 10 points from being comfortably in the top 8. And after the last game's performance and what they've done so far, that's exactly what you need to do. Play your game, come in with a good headspace, and do what Osaka is doing. They're not afraid to take fights.
No, not at all. And again, last week when we saw Osaka, I mean, we saw shades of this, right? We saw what they wanted to do, but we didn't quite see the execution. This week, this is almost like it isn't almost. It is a new and improved Osaka 100%. They're still doing the same thing they wanted to do as far as getting high ground and being turrets, except their execution is much cleaner.
Absolutely. Watching them move around in here, they're doing a great job. They found that member of TDM. Domini just sort of, I'm not really even sure what the play was there.
I'm not really sure what TDM is doing right now.
Well, they're losing. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, but I mean, I even said it off the start, right? Like, they basically did 4 corners, and if you're not familiar with 4 corners or new to BRs, it's basically where you have a team of 4, right? You're playing with your mates, and all of you drop at a different corner of the map, northwest, southeast, to try to see who can get the most kills, and it is not working for them. It is not working for them at all.
It's a grasping at straws strategy, especially early on in Battle Royale competitive. You sort of trying to figure out what's going to work for me. And, I hate to say it, I'm not going to polish a turd, but at the end of the day, some teams just aren't ready. And that's not bad because you get better the more that you train. And this may not be TM Dominican season,
Sure.
but I can guarantee you that when it comes to the next qualifier, they are going to know a lot of things that they did not know when this event started. And that is going to make them better, maybe a middle tier team, because improvement. Battle Royale is not always about the best mechanics or the fastest twitch. It's about mastery of levels of skill and of strategy. And that just takes time and practice.
Yep, and there's nothing wrong with TDM struggling here. Again, as you said, as long as they come back in the next season and we see some improvements, heck, even make it to the middle of the pack, that's fine. That's actually huge for them.
Yep.
Because as we see right now, yeah, they're struggling. They still kind of doesn't seem like they've really figured it out yet, but that's not to say that they can't learn. Nice time turner.
Wow, he walked right in there. They had no clue. Fuego was caught completely off guard by this assault. And he is just raining down on them. Nathan, what is even happening
Butcher,
right now?
That was clean from Team Butcher.
Holy cow. He came in and he initiated a fight that Fuego had no clue was about to start. And the rest of his team descended like a flock of hyenas. Like, I don't know that hyenas travel in flocks, but there was a heck of a lot of them. And they definitely just took them apart. So great play there by Team Butcher, who, again, needs to put some points on the board. They're in 20th going into this match.
They are indeed, and that, I believe, will be the last member of TM Dominican, as each member was killed by a different team.
And like you said, four corners. I think it's good that you noticed that. They definitely were trying something out, and it didn't work.
Sure, and I commend them for that.
Exactly. As long as you're trying, right? Just as long as you never give up, you go out there, you try something different, you see if it works for you. It is what it is. Now, glue wall stacking is what we're seeing from 9D here as they try to move around High Religion to find a better flank point to try to dig them out of the greenhouse.
The problem here for 9D, though, is Domi had a position set up to try to help them with that fight. The problem is now he's realized that there's a full team of High Religion right next to him, and so they are kind of split between two teams. Actually, I really like this split from Northblood, like quite a bit, actually. They've essentially forced them to take that fight as we now move to Red Falcons, actually another team that potentially could qualify here.
Yeah. Red Falcons was stuck on an edge fight last time around that ended up costing them almost everything. Here they are again. Glue wall stacks.
Oh my goodness.
Trying to stop him. They may just leave him there to suffer the blue behind his walls.
That's the play to make.
Leave him in
They still have to worry about Osaka.
My man! Osaka with the speed blue walls cannot stop it as Blester knocks him down. Osaka on fire, going to be able to not be able to come up and rescue him just yet as they don't really know what's going on with the Red Falcons.
No, and meanwhile, Northblood has just been peppering everybody. I mean, they are just almost farming knocks at this point. As Red Falcons still just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, literally a building. Tries to go back up. Oh, and he's just going to push in.
He's going to go for it out the window. They were basically trying to force him to jump out and jump down to get it over with, and it does. So Red Falcons able to finally get themselves extricated and clear their flank. The problem is New Blood made that collapse on what there was a big split. They're holding the ravine. It looks like a big fight as Red continues to come down the hill towards Osaka. Osaka taking fire from New Blood, turn their back to Red Falcons as Red Falcons cleans on the right side.
Oh, it's a mess,
We've got
Steve.
Invalidos coming from the other. New Blood now inside of a fight. Time Turner, blue walls. It's all off as Red Falcon gets into the mix. Invalidos now manages to finish the push. They're down to one player. Red Falcons coming forward 3. New Blood in the middle of it all, trying to stay alive. Can Blester make it happen? But it's all about the Red Falcons. With 3 left alive, they are not giving up. They push around. Blester gets the left side flank. He's exposed. Justin finally goes down. Esteban goes down as Red Falcons makes another massive play. And ultimately, I believe, comes out with the win.
That was very impressive coming out from Red Falcons, because remember, they were sandwiched between two teams at the start of that. And Osaka was being relentless with the damage they were putting on. Also, there was a crossfire coming in from Northblood as they were set up on the bottom of the hill, which Northblood, again, also had an amazing setup, but Red Falcons still managed to bring it out. And, even though this isn't one of the teams, Steve, that's guaranteed yet, I've really enjoyed watching Red Falcons, specifically with Griffo on that team. I mean, he had an incredible 1v4 in the previous week, and so that's that was a hell of a win, man. They took circle position as well. They took control after they realized that fight was happening with Invalidos and Northwood on the east side. And man, that was good stuff.
And it was beautiful. The fact that they knew that they couldn't push down to fight the teams below them until they eliminated that backstab threat. They fought very, very cleanly. They get 9 kills. Northblood gets 8. Northblood, you brought that up. Strategically, their hold was beautiful. They had that ridge spread. They were out in sort of a 2-1-1 that allowed them to sort of control that entire southern portion of the circle. The last circle established itself, they collapsed very, very quickly. And honestly, if it wasn't for the skill of Invalidos, who I think are just probably some of the best mechanical players in the lobby right now, I think Northblood would have won that game. It was just the fact that they were sandwiched between a desperate Falcons and a very strong Invalidos. Not to mention Osaka also showing up in that fight. It was just a lot to deal with for Northblood at one time.
If you take one of the teams out of the equation there that Northblood had to deal with, they probably would have won that game, right? But the fact that you had Red Falcons and Valitos and Osaka breathing down the necks, and the fact that they were holding them for that long is also very impressive. I mean, look, they had 8 kills to their name. That could have been a different game either way. But Red Falcons, again, I have to give them praise for understanding the situation that they were in, realizing that they had to get that rat out of that top of the building. They double pushed him, forced him out of the window, and then they took the fight onto Osaka. It was just one domino falling into place after another for them, and the decision making is really what allowed that to happen.
And it's something that I think you want to talk about good, smart plays. And the thing that they did that really impressed me is they pushed we saw the glue wall barricade, and then so what they did is they added their own glue walls to the barricade so that the player inside couldn't easily push out. They left one person on guard duty, took the other 3 downstairs to clear the window for the drop down, and then had left 2 there to hold window while the third player went back up and joined his teammate to push the glue walls. That guaranteed that either way, no one was taking a 1v1, whether the player chooses to escape or take the fight in the upstairs. I mean, that is quality planning in a very stressful situation because the whole time Osaka and New Blood are rattling them with pepper shots.
Yeah, I will say that even though the Red Falcons may not be, again, guaranteed to qualify here, they have a good chance. And so far, even throughout their rough games, I've really enjoyed watching this team, and they've propelled themselves now in the top 12. They only need to go up 4 more spots, and realistically, that's only about maybe 12 points, which is doable, very doable.
And even if they don't, and this to me is a massive key here, is we are in the first iteration of a pro series. What I want to see out of teams is obviously winning. That's always a plus.
Sure.
But the potential for growth, the fact that Red Falcons is making strategic plays, emphasizing team focus, those are the things that go, okay, if these guys stick together, if they keep training, this is a team that I expect to see as a regular top 5 appearance. It might even happen today. But that's the reality is that's what we search for in Battle Royale is those teams with potential. That said, overall leaderboard, remember, it is B and D that are playing today. A and C's are done. They cannot get any more points. So that climb is continuing. As we look down towards the bottom, it is still Death Academy and Dominican trying to claw their way out of the LC into the LCQ, as is C7 Esports. It's starting to feel like maybe C7 is the only team in this group from that bottom 4 that has a chance to make it out. I mean, that's a 91 to 65 is a pretty big gap.
Yeah, you could say that's a pretty decent gap. And you have to remember there's only really 4 games left even today. So the chances of them, racking up 50 points and also having it so that the other teams don't gain any, it's a tall task. But we talked about it earlier, Steve. That doesn't mean it's the end of it. This is the start, right? This is the start of a pro series. This is a very new thing. And so for a lot of these players, again, getting the experience is more than enough for them to potentially come into the next season and do better, right? Because as a fledgling and starting, I don't want to say fledgling, but as a brand new kind of pro series, these guys have the opportunity to kind of get in on the ground floor, learn what they can, especially if they're not, kind of very fluent in battle royales. This is a good chance for them to get there.
Well, it is time for game number 3 to get underway as we prepare to jump out of the planes and make it happen again. This is the Free Fire Pro Series North America. Free Fire just won the award for Esports Mobile Game of the Year. So these teams know the future is bright if they can perform. They were in purgatory. It felt like hell. Well, now it's time to head to the tropics, but it will be anything but relaxing as the teams put on their resort wear and get ready to drop in to the beautiful Bermuda.
And quite a different map as well. It's not so much rotating from island to island here on Bermuda. It is just one gigantic island with a little tiny resort off to the the southeast. But that generally won't be too much of a factor in this game, as it's all central, baby. And speaking of which, Fuego and 9D be dropping hot on each other.
Get out of there, Fuego. This is not for you. This is not your place. Run away. I don't know.
That man has a pyramid tattoo on his back. I would not mess with him. That's all I'm saying. He's seen some things. He's been places. Oh, never mind. He's seen nothing.
He's seen nothing but death in this moment. All right, so it looks like Fuego does need... So Fuego is a team that we have been kind of watching. They've been getting caught in a lot of really difficult fights for them. They're currently in 9th place and need to continue to get that climb up. 9D is in 8th place. So these are two teams who are literally on top of each other, battling for the advance, because only the top 8 teams get the auto bid to the grand final. Godspeed. I guess This is one way to control your destiny.
I mean, sure. Again,
Sure.
I don't know if I'd want to. I just don't know if I'd really want to pick this fight this early. Yes, they got it. They got a nice frag there onto Millsy. That is going to be a kill for them, and maybe pushing back 9D. But 9D is also one of those teams that likes to hang out on edge, and they like to punish teams that at the very least rotated late with them, and so that might be a problem. But at the very least, not a bad start at all.
Absolutely not a bad start. Like I said, this is a team, they do have 3 more games. When you're at that close to the cutoff, you can make a few risks because you have a chance to make it up in the next couple of games. We'll check in with Invalidos. This is a team that has been absolutely dominant. They're in 4th place currently with a good point total, but it has been dropping. They came in strong today with a good number, and other teams have been gaining on them. So they do need to sort of take stock of where they are. 164 points. 8th place is 151. That is not as big of a pad as we sort of felt there was coming into today.
It's really not. And Velitos, I mean, if you want to look at their very short history, right, it's the fact is that they've been really good as far as being above average on kills. They're a high killing team, but even in finding decent placements, they really do lack big wins. And so I am hoping, especially with a player like Axino, who's sitting on 30 kills, or at least was sitting on 30 kills before we started, and was at 5th across the entire tournament. I mean, you would expect they would potentially be doing a little better, especially in this lobby. I don't want to say it's a weaker lobby, but, a lot of the teams are in the bottom in this. So, yeah. Invalidos kind of expect a little more, but generally they're going to be quite safe.
I think they've been trying to farm, but they've been coming up against strong teams. Time Turner comes out from Butcher. TBT trying to make something happen. Steps out and then back in, but ultimately cannot get it going. Nathan tries to toss a nice little grenade down there. It works. He gets 2.
That was huge.
Invalidos is dropped down. 2 of them are, it's basically a 1-for-2 trade somehow. It has been very, very effective. The Butchers now trying to make it happen. That was 1 flush. Invalidos down to 1. Butchers down to 2, but their players are still up. If they can execute quickly, they can get some reses here. Invictus's last player is not necessarily nearby. He's all the way up the hill. So just like that, the Butchers get 3 from one of the top teams in the lobby and go back to 4 strength.
That was huge. That was actually a beautiful play from Team Butcher. Yeah, that nade is really what turned that around. And yeah, Invalidos' Max is out of there. He's the only member left. They got a full recovery. Beautiful stuff from Team Butcher, honestly. What a recovery.
Time Turner don't stop things that go boom. I'll tell you that.
No, it does not.
If it lands inside. So it was beautifully executed. He knew that his teammate had just been in there. He knew that they were surrounded by those glue walls. And that, honestly, is one of the biggest weaknesses. And that's why I love sort of the way glue walls are utilized, because you can build yourself a cute little fort, but all that's also doing is building a nice little golf hole for anybody who wants to play sort of grenade tag. And that's exactly what we saw. Exactly. It's your safety and your death all at the same time, depending on the loadouts that your opponents are bringing with them. So that high ground play from Butcher was huge and excellently executed. Let's check in with 9D. They're overwatching as Fuego and ZRJ bumped up against each other, but Fuego, again, chooses sometimes, the better part of valor is patience. They decide it's not the time to take a fight, cross the bridge. and extract themselves from that situation. And that's a tough cross. If you look at, if you know the map, this bridge is actually sort of taking them not in a direct line towards the circle. They're moving away from it in order to get a better way in. And it may work. The problem is, just across this bridge, 9D is playing the edge.
Right. And remember, 9D is the squad that they took a member from at the beginning of that game. And like I said, 9D is one of those teams where they will sit and they will punish, even if they get in an early fight, they lose a member or two, they will try to punish the team that's on the edge with them. And so I'm still kind of worried about Fuego, even though they had a nice little engagement off the rip. But yeah, we'll have to see.
All right, let's keep an eye on 9D as they are getting some loot. Fuego is tailing them. 9D has decided to move into the new circle, which will be slightly in the island. This is a tough circle for a map that has very little sort of mid-tier water or crossable water. It is maybe unfortunate for these players that the circle is going to go right towards that river and split it down the middle. So you have to make a decision. Do you go for the mainland, or you do what 9D is doing and you stay here on the island? Because I got to be honest, if you don't cross now, it could become very difficult to do so later.
Yeah, and that's what makes these circles difficult to play. You said it right there. If you don't cross now, if you don't make the right decision, and sometimes, we've seen circles make these really kind of very rude shifts and screw over a lot of teams when it goes to like a smaller island or somewhere where it's less expected. And crossing in that water, Steve, you just said it, can be a death sentence for some of these teams. Is there's no cover. It's there's really no options to have other than to try to swim or maybe make a play when a third party is happening, and it's tough. So getting across early, potentially, hedging your bets in a safer way is probably the play for some of these teams. But who knows? Who knows in a world of BR where circles do just the most rude and terrible things to some of these guys is try to make it work.
Yeah, the players have rules. Circles do not.
Circles do not.
And so that is something you got to be aware of right now. As Fuego, beautiful shots there. As he tries to control the shoot, gets the burst working in his favor, does some serious damage, but isn't able to get any knocks. But I think that will send a very strong message to 9D that maybe you just keep your distance, guys.
They're aggressing on this. I really
they
like
are.
this. They're actually pushing 9D back again. 9D is one of the stronger teams in this lobby, so the fact that Fuego is taking the fight to them is really impressive. Shots being landed as well by Axel, and they are not letting up.
They are definitely coming forward. I mean, they know that this is going to be a fight to get across that bridge, and I think the key is they don't want to let 9D cross the bridge and set up on the other side. ZRJ with coming in. Oh, shoot, collapsing. Okay, so they're coming up behind Fuego. Fuego did spot them out. Here comes that push. He sees the third party peek, goes for the spray down. Glue wall is up. Bit of a premature time turner, I think, there.
Yeah.
And the team's going to be able to wait this one out. ZRJ goes around the outside. Calvin trying to get the edge, pops his time turner. 3 members inside. Fuego stacks up like a box of Jenga, and they know how to push. Fuego's taking it to ZRJ. ZRJ trying to make a stand. Chaos is absolute as the time turners have been burned, and now everyone's down to their glue walls. Zeus goes for a bit of a jog, and he is just stuck as he turns the corner and gets dropped down. King trying to make a last stand, but he can't do it. The King falls, and Fuego emerges as the victor.
That's really frustrating, man. Watching ZRJ, they always, if you even looked at their position going into that, they had the drop on Fuego 100%, but they flustered it, and it's just a reoccurring story for ZRJ.
Yeah.
Every time they're in a great position, they just never capitalize properly.
On the counterpoint, Fuego played that really clean. They faked left, they glue walled, and then he immediately met through the house and pushed right. All 3 of them took lead, with the 4th bringing up tail as they came around the corner of that fence. So when the time turner came out from ZRJ, they had 3 players with UMPs in the bubble within a moment's notice. And from then, they now have a free time turner that they get to use against their opponents. That's the danger of those corner pops on the time turner, because if you don't defend it, you're giving someone else an advantage.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. As 9D now is starting to rotate. Yeah, I mean, they're going to get a free rotation in on the south. The only team they really have to worry about is High Religion, and High Religion hasn't really moved. They've been comfortable in Mars Electric, just kind of been hanging out there. And so for them, as well as Fuego, I imagine they should be able to get across that bridge unless Red Falcons decides to kind of go to the east and camp edge, which I don't see happening. But actually, Red Falcons has done some aggressive edge plays in the past, so we'll have to see. Meanwhile, TDM kind of rotating in without any opposition. But again, it's going to be a nice little journey for them. No kills as well. Actually, I lied. They have 3 kills.
Well, what is it? I don't
Actually,
know.
no. TDM has no kills. Sorry, this is different team. This is Team Butcher, who we actually saw in an amazing fight earlier. A turnaround on Invalidos. These guys actually had a clean wipe on Invalidos earlier.
All right, so we're going to take a look as the circle continues to close. A lot of the early fights have sort of petered out as everyone now wants to make sure they have a good spot. Esteban is just watching these guys. Not much you're going to get. Oh,
that was
that.
sick. That was a boost. I actually didn't know that was possible. That was really cool. I love that from Team Northblood. Right? Really love that.
Somebody used to play CS.
Yes, that's exactly what I thought, Steve. I was like, oh, a boost? That's super old school. I like that a lot, honestly. That was cool. I hope we see more of that. Oh,
nice.
My goodness, 500.
500 puts him down. This is the Osaka we've come to love. And 500 just takes the fight forward. He does not care. He is glue walling, steps into the time turner, gets the burn down. And then they just come in and they take what they want. Osaka is out of control right now as TDM. Honestly, I feel like they saw the name and said, yum, yum.
That was kind of gross what Osaka did to TM Dominican. I mean, this is what I'm, this is kind of what we're talking about. You may not have the best week, or you use these games as a lesson, and Osaka has absolutely come back much stronger as a team since last week, and that is what you love to see, again, especially in such a young esports starting to thrive. I mean, that's huge. Osaka is, watch this team, man. Watch this team. If they're improving at this rate, they're going to be very scary moving into the finals.
Absolutely. They're doing this, and they're climbing up into that top 5 probably after this game with the numbers they've been putting down. Fuego, another team that has been very impressive here today with their play, came into this match in 9th with 144 points and will continue to climb as they've already got 5 kills on the board and have managed to survive 2 fights with 4 alive. That, to me, is the most impressive thing about Fuego, is that they're walking away from these fights without leaving bodies behind.
Yep. That's very important for a team like Fuego. The fact that, again, they had a really nice early fight in 9D, which is a fight that I was a little scared about for them, just because 9D has been so solid and so scary to fight, especially early game. And they were able to kind of clean up, rotate in very intelligently. And so far, Fuego's looking very good.
All right.
High Religion, though.
High Religion's been, they're cold, though. They've been here for a long time, waiting for action. So let's see if they can hit these shots. This is what you want, though. If you've been cold for a while, getting a chance to sort of start a range warm-up, and they do, is not a bad pickup. So nice knock there. 9D, I don't think, expected to run into trouble. And all of a sudden, 9D is down to 1 player. So nicely executed by High Religion. The problem is the circle's moved away from them, and they are still stuck here waiting for the last member of 9D.
Yeah, they might want to consider actually moving in. I think moving in would be way better here. They know they've crippled 9D at the very least. If they were keeping track of kill feed, they know that 9D lost one immediately off the rip of this map, which means that there's only 1 member left. And therefore, staying as a full team just to hold out 1 member, probably not worth. Maybe leave just 1 member behind to do that. Otherwise, they should start making it in, as we are going back to Team Butcher, who is actually got a knock onto Northblood here. Actually, Northblood was holding them, and they've managed to spread out. So really good stuff coming out from Team Butcher.
Team Butcher is on fire. You see him just opening up. Look at this, man. He has just been brutal up on top. He's got that crate. He was able to get up there and get the switch out, uses the glue walls to make the cross. I like they're using their box to get a little more vision, but Team Butcher is just hitting headshots left and right. I mean, the reality is they should be boosting. They need to move over and boost, because right now, Butcher knows exactly where the peaks are coming from.
Yeah, this is also, Northblood is just shredding through their utility, right? Their meds, and they're constantly having to res. They're now getting a little bit behind as far as positioning, allowing Team Butcher to move up with all those knocks. And they have this entire wall to kind of use as far as running forward, and they still have actually no glue walls left. Oh, and he's running with his scythe out.
Change it up. Invalidos is out. He just kept moving, didn't try to go. He actually baited the follow, waited for the reload, and then his teammate came out and got the burn down. Smart again, as the Butchers are just playing clean free fire right now. Shots go out, though, but the chaos is not working. It looks like New Blood or Northblood, I'm sorry, has something to say about it, and they go from the high ground and ended up knocking out 3 of the Butchers. So from dominant to dominated, the Butchers get crushed under the power of Northblood.
I do want to give Butcher some credit, though, even though they did get sandwiched and crushed hard. They were taking a fight on 2 fronts. That was one against Northblood and one against Osaka. And
True.
they actually, I think, took a member of Osaka out as well. And so even though they went down, Team Butcher did not go down without a fight, and they took it to 2 of the stronger teams in the lobby. And that's not something that you should hang your head low for. That was beautiful.
Fuego taking the fight here with High Religion. High Religion inside of that time turner gets juked from the back. Easy attack as Calvin from Fuego has been absolutely brutal in this last fight. He's going to go ahead and get his heel up as his teams just defend him from the outside.
Fuego, man.
He buried himself in glue, and as he got swarmed, the rest of his team just surrounded and pounded, dropping down anyone who pushes up against them.
I mean, right now, it's kind of crazy how good Fuego is. They're farming the entire lobby, 8 kills to their name. Now Osaka coming into third party, High Religion from behind, but they have a very rabid and dangerous team of Fuego right in front of them as High Religion is going to go down.
High Religion does drop, leaves the game for the big boys as Fuego seems to be pushing out. Uziel is knocked. No chance to res him. He will be left for dead. That'll be the first to go down for Fuego. Red Falcons again alive here in the end game as they're buried in the low ground. C7, a team that's desperate to get into the LCQ, is locked up against the wall, and up on the high ground, Fuego is making the call as they use those glue walls to make sure nobody can take pot shots at them. But they're not too worried because right now Red isn't interested in them. They're keeping their eyes up the hill on Northblood.
And you said it best, Steve. Another game where Red Falcons is 4 up in the center in the end game. That is very impressive. And I mean, Red Falcons is a team. I really feel like this is a team that absolutely deserves to be in the finals. But wait a second. Slick Rick coming in from the side. Can he get a knock? Time turners all around. This is chaos.
No one can tell whose time turner is whom's, as ultimately Slick Rick doesn't pan out. C7 does lose 2 there in the offing as Red Falcons are on a split. Axel from Fuego in the distance going for the high ground flank play. That could be humongous. Jordy going for the res, but the push is coming, as is the blue. They can't afford to take this damage. Glue wall to glue wall, prayer to prayer. C7 trying to survive, running past other players and just letting them suffer the damage of the blue. Shares a glue wall, gets the knockdown. Red Falcons are getting dismantled inside of here, but C7 seems to be surviving until Fuego showed up, and now they're taking the fight to them.
Oh, this is a mess. Northblood trying to take advantage as much as possible, but still 2 members of Red Falcons left alive, and it's just, I think it's down to a 2-on-2 at this point.
2-on-2, I believe, or 1 on Fuego still across the way over at the rock. They can hold for just a second as the circle tees to close. Fuego's going to get pushed forward, and B is stuck against that wall, and that damage is going to be absolutely astronomical. Goes in to try to get the kill at the end, but he's not going to do it. He goes down. Fuego's putting in fire from the outside. Axel looks for the flank. They got the time turner. They're making the push, and the win comes out. It's a booyah. The MVP is Axel, and the winners are Fuego. They have been on fire from the start of that match, and they never gassed out.
I mean, Fuego, I don't even know how Fuego won that game. They were coming off of the edge. They had very little utility left, and the fact is that they still made it work. They were able to, that split, by the way, from Red Falcons that they were able to thwart was really impressive. They had 2 open-facing warehouses that were essentially watching each other for trades. I mean, even though Red Falcons didn't win, and Fuego, we'll talk about them because they had one hell of a game, Red Falcons' positioning and decision-making shows me that these guys are actually quite experienced with BRs as a whole. And so that was awesome to see.
Yeah, Fuego played out of their minds. This is a team that was in contest to be in the top 8. I don't think that'll be in question after this match because they came in and they were scared of no one. And I got to love that. I mean, they went up against some of the biggest fraggers in this lobby. I look forward to seeing what happens in the finals when they go up against teams like Bahia, who have proven to be absolutely brutal in terms of mechanics. Yeah. So that is something that will be interesting to watch. Let's take a look at the results of that game. Yeah. 16 kills.
16
12 teams drop. Okay. That means 48 players entered the game. You take 4 away because that's members of Fuego and you can't kill your own guys. And they get 16 of them. That is an insane amount of kills. Almost over a third of the lobby dies to these guys. And they still carried 4 until the bitter end.
Yeah.
Like, that's wild.
That's probably one of, if not the most impressive displays besides some of the games like La Bahia have had in a single match of Free Fire we've seen so far. I mean, they started out, let's kind of go back in the beginning of this game and look where Fuego kind of started, right? They took a hot drop with 90, took out a member early. I was worried 90 might camp them. They ended up pushing 90 off of them completely, right? They then move on to a fight with High Religion and completely annihilate them. They then have a third-party situation where they have to deal with Nordblood on the other side of the road. They do quite well and deal with them. And then they just wipe out Red Falcons, who had probably one of the best splits and positions on the map. So, I mean, and Axel for Fuego was just, I mean, he was chef's kiss. He was all over them. I mean, look at that. 9 kills. That was disgusting. Right. Calvin as well with 3. I mean, what a game, Steve.
Hey, can you go back to that last slide? I want to see that last one, the leaderboard real quick. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So he got more kills by himself than any other team got combined on the map. So as we go back to those high performers, I just wanted to be very clear on that. Axel was the MVP, but like above and beyond expectations as he completely obliterated the other teams on that map. And that is going to be huge for their overall leaderboard. That is going to cause them to get to a very comfortable 5th place at 172 points. They're actually going to climb past Invalidos, as does Northblood. Both of these teams started well behind them today and have been playing so well. Osaka also has climbed into 3 points of Invalidos, and they are a team that is now at risk of maybe not even finishing in the top 8 based on how good Osaka, 9D, Fuego, and Northblood have been doing.
Well, you even just mentioned it. 9D, as good as they've been, they've actually fallen, right? Yes. And so they're at the cusp. They're right at 8th place. Red Falcons, who've been having so far a really strong day as well as far as positioning and making it to the late game, they're going to find themselves in 10th place now with 150 points. Only 7 points behind, 8 points where they really want to be to snag 8th place as long as Club D doesn't get any more points, which, as we saw in that last game, they didn't really get too many. And so this top of the leaderboard, Steve, I mean, this is so close. Any of these teams could make it work into the top 8, let alone, maybe making a push for the LCQ from the teams on the right side of the leaderboard.
Well, there's only 3 games left to play till we crown the winners that will advance to the grand final. We're going to take a short break so the players can catch their breath, maybe use the bathroom and try to figure out what's working and not working as they come back in for the final 3 matches. I'm Toppy's. This is Godspeed. You are watching the Free Fire Pro Series inaugural season for North America. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you soon.
Hi survivors, welcome to the Free Fire Pro Series for North America. Participants will get the chance to showcase their skills and compete for their share of the $50,000 prize pool. This inaugural season will take place across 3 months in 4 unique phases: the Open Qualifier, the Group Stage, the Last Chance Qualifier, and the Finals. Teams will accumulate points throughout each of these stages, resetting for everyone at the start of each new phase. We will kick things off in the Open Qualifier. Teams from across the entire North American region will be split into lobbies of 12 teams, where survivors will battle it out for 6 games to earn their place in the next round. Teams will be awarded points for their in-game performance, including points for their final placement in the lobby, as well as their kills throughout the games. At the end of these games, the top teams from each lobby will move on to the round of 96. This round will feature new lobbies and 6 more games for each team. The teams that finish in the top 6 for their lobby will move on to a final qualifier round of 48, after which only 24 teams will be left standing to move on to the group stage. The group stage will be comprised of a 3-week season, with 2 game days each weekend. The teams promoted from the open qualifier will be placed into 4 groups of 6 teams each. Throughout the season, these groups will be paired on game days in a round-robin format, so that each group will face off against every other group in a 12-team lobby at least once. At the conclusion of the group stage, the top 8 teams from this stage will qualify directly to the finals. The bottom 4 teams in the overall standings will be dropped from the tournament, and the remaining teams will move on to the last chance qualifier. The last chance qualifier will see the teams placed 9th through 20th from the group stage compete in their final opportunity to qualify for the finals. Their bouts will take place over the course of 2 game days, with 6 games per day, all in a final bid to earn their shot at the championship. After this intense LCQ stage, only the teams in the top 4 will be able to move on to the finals. To cap things off, our grand finals will take place over the span of 3 days, with the top 12 teams from the tournament playing 6 games every day for a grand total of 18. Here, teams must go all out to earn points and stake their claim as the inaugural Free Fire Pro Series champions. At the end of the 3 game days, the 12th finalist will receive their share of the $50,000 prize pool, and a North American champion will be crowned.
Welcome back, friends, family, Free Fire faithful. Let's get this party back underway as we prepare for game number 4. It's game number 4. My gosh, these games go so fast.
They
just
really
get
do.
lost in the sauce, as Dave would say. Bermuda round 2 about to get underway. Only 3 games left to make a statement. We'll take a look at the map rotation because we'll be finishing out on Kalahari. But more importantly, Godspeed, let's walk back through the overall leaderboard.
Let's walk back. Indeed, we've had quite a bit of shifting happen in the last couple games. Obviously, we've seen Club D kind of slip down all the way to 8th place. We've seen teams like Osaka and Fuego rise to the occasion and rise in leaderboards, as well as Northblood. I mean, this has been an incredibly competitive top 12 overall. And I'm not exactly sure. You know, I thought maybe we had some teams that were more safe than they actually are. And Red Falcons also knocking on that door.
Yeah, absolutely. Red Falcons has been a little bit, they're unique in the way that they're playing. They're playing a little more passive. We're seeing them sort of get to the middle and hold for the end game. And that's not resulting in massive kill counts. In the last match, I think they got 3 or 4, but they got 11 points because of their placement. And so that is a big value when you talk about Battle Royale, is balancing kills versus placement. And we're going to see that because game 4 is ready. The screen has turned yellow. The drums are playing in my ears. It means it's go time as the teams prepare to drop in and make a name for themselves in the last 3 matches of the day. Top 8 advance to the grand finals. The final 4 go home. The rest go to the nail biter. That is the last chance qualifier. One more time to the tropics, Godspeed. It's Bermuda.
And I'm very curious, Steve, if a team like Fuego can kind of repeat that last performance, right? They had just an absolute banger of a game coming off of a ridiculous amount of kills, 16. Axel with 9 to himself. I mean, that was a masterclass on basically how to clean out a map. And so can Fuego do it again? Will we see another early hot drop where they go against 9D or another team that's, you know, quite strong? It looks like actually, yeah, we will see another hot drop. It's going to be Fuego going up against TDM, actually.
Fuego looking like they might, I don't want to say they're going to farm some kills here, but
I mean, honest, you could assume, sure. I wouldn't call you crazy for assuming that.
Don't call me crazy. Just You actually can call me crazy. Just don't call me late for dinner, right? Fuego good dropping here, get themselves a good early fight. Everyone else spread. This is exactly the kind of playing you want to see towards the end of a series because it's simple, it's down the middle, everyone can play their game, and this is the game that ZRJ has chosen as they end up in a hot drop here. It gets off very, very quickly. The Cowboy tries to go for a kill, but ain't going to manage to do it. ZRJ getting aggressive as Viz is just going straight to the fight. They saw DA drop as a group, and they are hungry to take him out.
That was a very early time turner, I might add, coming out from ZRJ. And this is a team, again, who's so good at setting these intricate traps and getting good position, but their execution has just been it's been lackluster, man. This team has struggled, and it's unfortunate because you can see the cogs turning and the ideas that they have, but the execution is once again just not there. So hopefully they can survive this early fight with DA, who has been quite scrappy, and they do some damage in these early fights. And ZRG can do that. Maybe they can make a bid and a push to kind of get up the leaderboard. But as it stands,
they've got good strategy, and I'll say this: I've
Invalidos
watched.
is backfilling this.
Oh, Invalidos is going to be coming here for some love. ZRJ gets a spray. I'm not even sure he knew that he was going to be pushing there. As the first blood goes the way of ZRJ, Invalidos up on top of the hill. Remember, Invalidos started today out in first when it comes to this group, and now they are in a battle to stay in the top 8. So I think if this had been game 1, Invalidos would have been in here fighting already. And now they're going to look for high ground positions instead and try to be the third partiers, which, again, wow, nice shot. And this is the beauty of the third party. He gets the flush. He gets the second shot down. The time turner is super effective from that position up there. Invalidos playing very smart Free Fire.
And DA have actually opted to just get the hell out of Dodge. They don't even want to be there. They don't want to bother. And this position by Xeno was actually so good, but it also ended up biting him. He wasn't as safe as he thought.
No, he bent over to heal, and Viz it put the edge of his head right over the edge there. That was just, again, little things you learn the more you play at this level, that you just can't give up those inches, because at this skill level, an inch is equal to a mile. So Invalidos has taken to the fight. DA, as you said, have sort of extracted themselves, rescued in a lot of ways by Invalidos, and ZRJ doesn't seem to care who they're fighting.
No, but they should, because again, although they've recovered somewhat well here off of that, I mean, they still have lost a player. They weren't able to close out a kill onto Xeno as the res came out, and so this is still a strong team fighting against, ZRJ. But to their credit, again, their positioning is good, and I love their ideas. I just want to see them execute, and as I see that, Nex with the most disgusting off angle is going to get a clean headshot and a wipe on a Zeus, and now down to 2 members of ZRJ.
And just like that, Invalidos is on fire. ZRJ is getting deconstructed. Death Academy made the right choice here. ZRJ could have faded away. They could have slipped down that hill and never been seen again. But they chose to fight it out, despite the fact that Invalidos had a better spot. They had the prime position. They got the high ground. DA saw it. They chose to go away.
Yeah, and that was, honestly, that's a pretty veteran move from a very kind of new team, right? Is realizing that it's not worth being in a three-way fight, off the rip. They saw that ZRJ was there. I think they lost a member early to ZRJ, and then they heard the fight coming out of Invalido, so on to ZRJ, and they're like, you know what? We don't need to be here. And that's a very wise decision from DA, and you love to see it.
Free Fire is a fast-paced game. People tend to default to Chad mode, if you will. The ability to turn on that rat mode somehow, though, especially at pro play, can be the difference between success and abject failure. So DA did slip away, but now they have to deal with the meat grinder that is Osaka.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they escaped one situation, only to be put in a potentially even more dangerous situation with Osaka. Has just been so good today, and they've been absolutely showing that they're a better team. Oh my goodness, what's going on? There's so many time turners, and actually Guwao is being used, and what a time turner!
Osaka came aggressive, and Osaka to him as DA is left for dead. Osaka will keep 4 alive. Did you see? They prepped the push. They stacked the time turners. They drew fire to the front and then ran a one-man flank around the back, who made sure that Google Walls were not an effective backup plan, because that's what happened. They got through the time turners. They pushed DA backwards. And when DA went to go to glue walls to try to buy some space, Well, hey, there's the last member of Osaka. He's standing behind me. Blue
They
walls
trapped
only
him.
cover one direction.
Osaka is, I know I keep touching on it, but I really can't praise them enough for how much better they've come in this week. Looking, I mean, it's been night and day from an already pretty decent team to now looking like a dominant team. I mean, they could very well be the best team in this lobby today. So far.
They are striking me as a team that is taking reviews and things like that seriously. At the start of an esport in a region, a lot of teams will get by on hubris and brass tacks, if
or
you
just
will.
raw mechanics.
Right, and raw mechanics. But the reality is we've seen in many battle royales in the past, as the genre's been around for a couple of years now, the teams that do the VOD reviews, the teams that learn what weaknesses they have, that start to put together set pieces, for instance, are the teams that end up surpassing the mechanical brilliance, because Battle Royale was not built purely for mechanics. It's built for brains. You have to have the brains and the trigger, as we learned from watching this over many, many years.
I mean, there's also that saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And
yeah,
that generally will happen, right? And that's the other thing is, if you are a hardworking team and maybe mechanically you're not the best, I mean, we've seen it in other games where, certain IGLs have improved and actually become one of the more, mechanically talented just because of the work they put in. And especially if you're a fragger or you're on a team like Osaka and you guys are really feeling it, you're continuing to do VOD review, and not only is your strategy getting better, but also mechanically you guys are getting better, especially with how much time you're putting into it. And so Osaka, they've been a beautiful example of just coming in and becoming so much stronger, as we see Northblood just, this last member of ZRJ, look at this, just being absolutely stalked. Sorry, the last two members of ZRJ being absolutely stalked by Northblood in this really cheeky little angle. I really like these little portholes almost that they're holding him through.
Yeah. I mean, this is as tough, especially because we play in third-person perspective. These buildings are so powerful because you can peek through the holes, but you can also get just tons of vision up over the top. We got Jeffrey stuck inside of the tree. I mean, he's got a tree between him and Northblood. Not much Northblood can do to dig him out, but the reality is they don't have to.
Right.
Jeffrey's the one that's in a terrible position.
Yeah, I mean, he has 4 guns looking straight at him at any given time. And as we do start to look at Fuego now coming in, remember, they got into very early, they got in an early fight with one of the teams there down on the south, but it seems as though there was no casualties. Both teams seem to have pulled off. 0 kills, just running in now over the bridge. And no one is contesting, so this should be a free run for them at the very least. The only team that I might say they may need to worry about is High Religion there just to the south. They might see this cross, otherwise they're in the clear.
Yeah, right now it just feels like they're in a bit of a Forrest Gump simulator. Let them do their thing as they cross the bridge. They wiped a third of the lobby last time. They could play a little slower this time around if they really want to. Let's check in with High Religion.
I mean, they're just chilling, Steve. They're just hanging out on the south. They're in the circle, just kind of looking for other teams rotating in. Yeah, I mean, this is where they like to play, and that's not a bad thing, honestly. Again, you talked about it earlier, having set plays, set rotations, set scouting positions is definitely something that I think teams should really look into, especially if they're quite familiar with the other teams on the map. That can be very advantageous, knowing where they can be and be safe, where they can be to scout, where they can be as far as the rotations go. And so not bad at all from High Religion. And now they're going to have not too much of a run, really, just past Mars Electric to get in. And so really the onus is going to come on the teams that are starting to clump on the middle, Steve, because we've seen city endings and BRs before, and they are an absolute mess.
They are absolutely disgusting. We got Red Falcons has grabbed themselves a decent middle position. They're not going to have to move because the circle is close enough to them that they can stay there and hope for a shift back. Fuego has made it across the bridge and will very likely stumble up against either High Religion or Red Falcons as they make their transition to the circle. 9D extricated themselves from a fight with TDM earlier and has made it to the circle as everyone else begins to collapse. So far, it seems like there's not going to be too much conflict. Here we check in with Invalidos, who wiped earlier by showing up at his third party and becoming the main party at their first fight in the match, and they are continuing to move forward quickly. 2 kills in the docket, though. They're going to need a few more points than that to be comfortably in the top 8.
Absolutely. And again, it's just weird because I didn't really think Invalidos would, be potentially out of the top 8, but I mean the amount of ridiculous play that some of these other teams have brought. I'm obviously talking about Fuego, Red Falcons as well. I mean, there's a real chance that they kind of get pushed in LCQ, and although I'm sure they do fine there, that's not where Invalidos wants to be.
I want to point out Fuego's use of the drone right now. They're moving it along with them. We see other drones on the map that are being used for scouting. Fuego just moves it about 100 meters or so in front of them so that they knew exactly where Red Falcons were sort of doing their thing as they pushed up, and they were able to stop the push. They found out there was an entrenched team there, decided it was not a fight that they were interested in taking, especially with the nature of the circle, and they'll fade back and make a counter rotation. So good usage of information gathering by Fuego to make sure that they take fights that work for them.
Yeah, Fuego has been amazing in their scouting. Again, they've just been amazing in everything that they've done so far today. Them and Osaka really look like the most improved teams coming into this week. And so because of that, I mean, they're finding success as we see a knock now coming out from Invalidos onto 9D as TDM just kind of slowly creeping, making sure they don't get any fights, because the last couple fights have not worked out in their favor at all.
No fights have worked out in their favor. TDM has been
I was trying to be nice.
In a difficult, it is what it is. Like, they've been in a difficult pickle. Kudos to them for coming out and putting in the work. Them and Death Academy have tried, but it's been a learning experience for them, and that's really all there is to it. Whereas on the other side, as we follow Fuego here, it has been a growing experience, a domination experience, as now they're going to push up here on High Religion. And you saw that. He did a good job of leaving himself out.
This is actually the exact same spot that High Religion was wiped by Fuego last game. So I'm wondering, has High Religion learned their lesson? Are they going to be able to hold this? Maybe back off if they don't think the fight is worth it, because the same team breathing down your neck 2 games in a row, the same position with Nox, doesn't look good for High Religion.
And now the blue is closed on them. Fuego has the outside. They use the glue walls to advance, and High Religion already taking fire. In they go. The fight is on.
The aggression.
Uziel just runs right in and says, hey, was that a time turner? I'll take the fight to you. Oh my gosh, double knock. Atalo does try to make something happen. Axel has to finally heal. He goes for the flush. Wait a minute. Could High Religion pull this off? They're getting some reses out. There's only one player left up from Fuego.
The blue and just like that, it's down to basically a 1-on-1. That res is going to come out, but I don't think the blue is way too strong at this point. He might be able to actually res him on the other side if he doesn't get wiped out here.
Oh, this is tough for Fuego. They got stuck in a tough fight. It looks like High Religion has just committed to sort of leaving it all on the field here. Atalo does manage to move to himself to a new glue wall, and Axel is going to make a run. Remember, Axel wiped half the lobby last time around, so if you want one player left for your team, it is he. The reality, though, is both of them took a Pyrrhic victory. Whoever wins that is not really going to win much, because they're pretty much out of this game. And in fact, they decided not to fight it out as we move to a new battle. It's because Atalo and Axel have just rotated away from each other, each choosing to go for position finishes instead of the final fight in that round.
And now Red Falcons onto TDM are just holding them out. I'm not quite sure. I mean, that was a really messy fight between Fuego and High Religion, and it kind of started where High Religion was actually on their back foot. Fuego was really kind of poised to win that fight, but then they pushed into the building with the 2 members, and they kind of traded unnecessary knocks. So that's definitely something to go back and look on. Meanwhile, again, back over to Red Falcons.
You had to know that time turner was coming out, man.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a slaughter at this point by the Red Falcons. I mean, that's just a clean wipe, and another fight where, TDM is going to struggle, but I really do want to go back to what you said, is as long as they can take something away from these games, yes, the fights aren't going their way, but there's still some lessons to be learned. So
yeah, and I mean, it also tells me that if you guys at home want to play, like, they got through opens, maybe you can too.
Sure. And that's not a diss. That's a legitimate thing. If a team like that can make it through opens and learn and get better, I mean, your team could also do just as well, or maybe not better.
Absolutely. And that's, again, that's how you cut your teeth, is up against the best of the best. Now's the chance to do that and maybe establish yourself as one of those. Let's check in with C7. This is a team that's trying to stay out of that LCQ, going head-to-head with Invalidos, who knows they need to put some points on board to get themselves comfortably in the top 8. They take the fight forward, but
Red Falcons,
here comes the Red Falcons. Baby, as they attack from the high ground.
I hate you,
Steve. Hate me too.
Oh, man. But you're not wrong. They are come swooping in onto the backside of this fight between Invalidos as well as C7. And nice job getting right over that blue wall. And Red Falcons, they're just so aggressive sometimes. I love it. On top of the fact that they do choose good positions, this is a mess of a fight, though. As trades going out in Invalidos now.
Invalidos trying to close on the last member. NRJ still in there causing trouble. And now it is NB and Northblood coming in to get involved as well. Northblood goes, I smell blood in the water, boys. And they begin to swarm as Invalidos was down to 1. The fight was almost done. Red Falcons is eliminated. And NB comes in and just begins to dominate. Invalidos is flushed, and that is a down for 2. Northblood plays the third party, and it is not the kind of party anyone else wants to be at.
Like a red wedding, really. I mean, that was just kind of a slaughter all around for Northblood as they come in around Osaka while continuing to show their dominance onto
Jeez. That was like a march through. That was just a chain of time turners where Osaka said, fine, we've got UMPs. Let's just walk in a straight line from time turner to time turner.
Yeah, Osaka's just nuts. I mean, the way they just wiped Team Butcher was kind of ridiculous.
Butcher's not a pushover.
Butcher's
been putting up numbers.
Butcher's been playing really solid so far over the day. That grenade, though, is going to find one. Esteban getting the knock onto...
No, let's go Northblood. Northblood's taking it to Osaka. Esteban comes around the right side, starts to work their way through the glue wall. The blue is closing. They're stuck, and the guys decide to fall back and wait for wait for Osaka to come out of the hole they put themselves in. Luis is down. Newblood can now hold the high ground. 500 is going to be stuck on the heel. It's a triple kill for Esteban and a death for Osaka. They'll go down to the blue, and Northblood comes out with the booyah as they get themselves a beautiful victory. Esteban, the match MVP. Northblood, honestly, playing third parties like an orchestra. They were incredible at how well they just found fights, ended them, and went to the next one.
I mean, Northwood came in just so ready to multiple fights, right? The first fight, third party was Invalidos versus Red Falcons. They absolutely destroyed that. They then waited for the fight between Osaka, who was just absolutely nuts, wiping Team Butcher, and then the way that they trapped Osaka and they systematically picked them apart was just really wild, especially behind the glue wall, the grenade, holding that grenade to toss over the top. I mean, and they just let the Blue Zone do the rest of the work. I mean, Northblood, that goes to show you why they're so dangerous. And if I'm not mistaken, Northblood is actually Kalahari is their best map, and that is coming up next. 2 rounds coming up on Kalahari. Northblood is looking scary, Steve. Very scary.
That's terrifying. That is terrifying because they're a team that has been in the hunt. They've got themselves 20 points off of that match. But Osaka, no slouches either. And remember, we talked about Invalidos was a little bit worried maybe about their slide down the leaderboard. Well, 10 kills will put a stop to that slide.
Yeah, it'll be a nice little foot stop there for them, at the very least, to get some more footing for themselves, as they weren't ever really out of it. But yeah, slipping down at this stage with only a couple games left is not ideal, but they were able to cling back. High Religion as well. I was really expecting another kind of just pick apart situation there, but they were able to kind of hold their own, and it was a messy fight between them and Fuego, and even though both members left with 1, they still managed to get 8 points overall, even though just 2 kills. And Red Falcons, man, they were kind of just fighting everyone.
Red Falcons plays a similar game to High Religion. In the last 2 matches, High Religion has gotten some pretty good circles, I'll say. And has been able to capitalize on those to get those points. Whereas Red Falcon, I think, has been forced to take some fights in some 3 ways that they were not interested in or don't really fit their style. However, 9 points out of all of that is respectable. So we'll see if the Red Falcons continue their climb as they move up those boards. Before we go to the overall leaderboard, let's take a look at the kills. Assassino, sorry, I struggle with that one, gets himself 6 kills for a team that has been struggling in the first 2 matches of the day. That is incredibly good news. The match MVP goes to Esteban. Only 4 kills, but he helps carry his team to the booyah, which, in my opinion, that is why you get MVP, getting there to the very end.
No, Esteban had some really, really nice plays, and I agree with you 100%. The fact that he's probably one of the big reasons why they won that. On top of the fact that, yes, they had amazing positioning as well as decision-making, but overall, it was very impressive. Osaka, again, regardless of the wipe, they look so good, as well as Fuego, but I think there was a little bit of hubris there on Fuego's part. Is they got a little too aggressive on that fight with High Religion. I'm just going to call it. They were the ones that had the zone. They were not the ones that needed to push into the blue the way they did. In fact, one of the members, I'm not sure who it was. I know it wasn't Axel because he was on the outside, but one of their members just pushed straight into High Religion when they were both in that in that little warehouse and they had cover and they were healing. There kind of was no reason for that. Blue would have pushed them out. And so Fuego on fire. Not intended, but
it's hot. That was hot.
You're on one today, Steve. But yeah, I do want to see them kind of look back at that and be like, look, sure, it's a mistake we kind of could afford to make as they're in fifth place. They've been accumulating quite a good amount of points, but I want to see them pull back because against a better team, I mean, they might not even make it out with one member, right? They can't make these mistakes, as you said earlier. At this level, you give a team an inch, you're really just giving them a mile.
So let's take a look. I think we have the day leaderboard. I do want to take a look at the teams that are playing today specifically so we can more sort of compare their performance against each other. This is just groups B versus D for today's play. And that for me is the big takeaway. We came in with Club 9D and Invalidos sort of in the lead in terms of these two groups and how they've interacted with each other. Both of them are below that top 5. Osaka has been absolutely brutalizing this lobby with 69 points and 36 total kills. I mean, that is far and away just huge compared to everybody else's numbers so far.
I think the other thing that's really impressive about Osaka, aside from the the kill count that they're putting up, Steve, is the freaking speed of which they're wiping these teams. I mean, they're quite literally running these teams over, and it's impressive to watch, man. Again, from the last week that we saw Osaka, they definitely struggled. We saw kind of what they wanted to do and these shades of really cool plays coming out, but the execution just wasn't there. The execution is absolutely there. I mean, this week, you won't talk about execution, 36 kills. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah, I don't know if they've evolved the third thumb or what they're doing, but their ability to move quickly and retarget has been impressive, to say the least. Now, when we go back to the overall leaderboard, because we do want to focus on not just the top. Remember, the top 8 advance, but it's also the bottom that needs to be aware of what's going on. Right now, that separation between 7th and 8th is becoming stratified. It is a very large difference with 20 points, the only 2 games left to play. 9D and Red Falcon need to pick up their game. They need to get themselves back into this, and they're going to be fighting each other basically because there's not getting 20 plus points in 2 games is going to be a tall order. And that order is up now. You see the screen, you hear the drums, the plane is about to take to the air, and with only 2 matches to play left on Kalahari, there's no time left. There's no forgiveness. If you aren't at the top, it's go time. It's time to put rubber to road, Godspeed. Let's see if these teams can do it as we get in to match number 5. Who are you excited about watching on this one?
I mean, Osaka, obviously, I just want to see how many more kills they can rack up in the game. But you brought up a really good point for teams like 9D, even Invalidos and Red Falcons. You start to wonder, is that pressure starting to get to them? As a team, especially who came in 9D, specifically, these guys came in, qualified, right? And now that they're slipping out of it, I mean, is that pressure getting to them? Are they going to be able to kind of deal with it? If they get in a team fight, are they going to kind of panic a little bit? And especially, again, with these new teams coming into a new scene, that to me is really actually quite fascinating, is which teams are going to be able to deal with the pressure and which teams are going to, kind of crumble.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in this position these players are, but I've been punched in the gut before, and it sucks. And I think that's exactly, I'm sure it's a very similar feeling.
That being said, Steve, you've also watched a lot of teams be in this position, get punched in the gut. True. So you kind of have a decent understanding of what's going on.
Absolutely. And again, if you're in chat and you've ever said, rats, campers, rock, this is esports, baby. If you can't deal with a camper, you can't deal with esports. All right, let's check this out as we got a fight starting off right out of the gate. This is the Red Falcons. These guys needed to get some points on the board. They go into a fight, and we got ZRJ just wipes High Religion off the map instantaneously. We didn't even get there in time to watch it.
Yeah, we were talking about mindset, mentality, what teams will make it, and in that 20 seconds... ZRJ, and ZRJ is a team that has had a rough go of it. I mean, let's just call it what it is so far. So to see them wipe a team that quickly, well done, ZRJ. You like to see it.
Absolutely. And you know what? They're a team that I think should be okay for the LCQ based on the point
Sure.
totals and sort of where
Yeah.
everybody is right now. So again, if you're not battling to get out of the sort of non-LCQ, or you're not battling to get to the top 8, some of these middle ground teams, they're guaranteed to be going to the last chance qualifier. They know they can't put 60 points up and get into the top 8 right now. It's a good chance to test some skills, to try out some strategies, to try some drop set pieces. Because that, I think, is something that is important, especially at the early stages of Free Fire North America Esports.
Yeah, this is absolutely the time for these teams to try something out, right? If it's not now, then I mean, when is it realistically going to be? Especially as you said, for the teams that are in the middle of the pack, the ones that are able to kind of, at the very least, it looks like a jump pad was used here. They're going to fall straight on to Northblood. Is 9D, and this is very aggressive play from this team, and I like this. This is the type of confidence you want.
Right? They yell surprise as they come up from the high ground. The time turner comes up, but the counter turner is there. And honestly, when it comes to that skill, a lot of times it's who pulls the trigger second when it comes to that defensive pop, and they execute it very, very well. Get that flush, and the fight will continue. 9D came out of nowhere. They'll get this res, and they'll keep 4 alive as the fight continues, but only 1 player left, I believe, for NB right now. Northblood, after coming off of an amazing last game, is in a very tough position.
Yeah, what a play coming out from 9D. And I was questioning whether or not they would be able to kind of rise to the occasion and deal with the pressure of these last couple of games. And I think that answer has been, pretty well, actually.
They put their hunting pants on and they went looking for trouble. And it's going to be Northblood that doesn't survive. I mean, Boss gets away, so Northblood will be able to play deeper into this lobby.
Sure.
But the reality is that's huge. I mean, Northblood is the second place team, not in the lobby, in the event so far. So that is not a team that you simply push over with a light touch. You've got to come in heavy, and the guys from 9D did that. So they threw some definite punches, which is a counter. Red Falcon has been very quiet right now. They haven't taken too much. The fight that they did sort of butt up against, they slipped away from, and they are sharing the same point total as 9D. So to me, it seems like 9D has a little more of a drive to make that top 8 right now. But Falcons have been strategizing not to push. So,
but yeah, to add to that, and I 100% agree with you. I mean, 9D obviously didn't know that was Northblood. They couldn't have known until they started that fight. But even still, to take that fight and to drop on a team that aggressively, that shows a lot of confidence, and that's what you need, especially in these last 2 games. So hats off so far to 9D. Love to see it.
Love to see it. You got to take it when you got to take those fights when you can get them, and sometimes you just got to play aggressive. Yeah. Especially if you know when you're in that 8th, 9th cutoff. Worst case scenario, you go to LCQ, right? So like take some risks. Best case scenario, they pay off. You don't have to worry about being in the meat grinder. There's a good chance you're going there anyway. So especially if you're in 9th, that's the time to push forward. Now, that said, Red Falcons is in 8th. They were literally 1 point off of 9th place club 9D, and Red Falcons has been averaging pretty decent points per game, so they can almost always count on them to get 7 or 8. So if you're trying to push past them, you've got to be aware that Red Falcons will very likely be in that final 6, and you need to get the kill points plus the placement to be able to push past them.
And I do just like, again, what that signifies as far as 9D is they're willing to just take those fights. They know that, and as you said, why not now? Take the risk. If it works out, great. You don't have to go through LCQ. And if it doesn't, you at least learn a few things, and you took some fights with some really good teams and got some good practice in there. So that's going to be a knock coming on to Karama from Jordy. And actually it was stolen by Red Falcons.
It was. So Red Falcons actually pushed them off the top of that bridge. They were hunting him out. I don't think they even knew C7 was closing. So the upside of that is they now are aware that C7 has approached this area, and they have the high ground and can defend it. If that drop down hadn't happened, I think C7 might have made second platform before Red was even aware that they were here. So Red Falcons do benefit a little bit from, I don't want to say luck, but C7 showing up just a second too soon.
Yeah. Now C7 just going to hold their ground here, as I don't really think any of these teams want to push. Justin so close to fighting a knock on a Navy. But overall, this is probably going to be a stalemate, Steve. I don't really imagine this. No. I don't see any of these teams pushing, especially with the position they have Red Falcons on top here. C7 just kind of keen to just hang out until either shots come down onto Red Falcons, who are in a high ground position, right? Maybe from around, or maybe they get an opportunity with a knock to push. But yeah, C7 is going to back off.
No,
and
they should.
I don't think this is a bad play. I agree.
They are in a position where currently in this game, they're in 21st place. They are not going to the LCQ, but they're only about 4 points behind getting into the 20th and getting their bid at making it to the grand finals, right? So it is in their best interest not to push these fights, to try to play for placement, pick up a kill here and there. All they need to do is earn 5 points over the next 2 games, and their hunt for grand champion continues, right? So if you try to force some of these early fights and walk out with no points, it puts the onus on the next game. So I think C7 doing a very good job of playing a smart defensive style. Cannot hold that against them, specifically when you look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, and again, this is such a dangerous clump right in the center here. So many teams just hanging out around Refinery. I mean, TDM, you also have, you have Team Butcher as well, C7. Off to the side, you have Fuego, who essentially might be coming into Refinery here as they're just holding off center of the circle. And then Osaka, Osaka terrifies me, even though they're not in this, because at any point they can come in third party, and they have before. And so, yeah, this is a very precarious situation for Red Falcons, as they kind of have pushed the other teams off, right? C7 is backed off. TDM doesn't really want to push this, but now they find themselves on an edge, and that's a very busy edge on the south side, Steve.
That is an uncomfortably busy edge. That's like a hockey player's
black
edge.
Yeah, it's like a like a Black Friday line that you got late to. That's awful.
Yeah, and Black Friday wasn't that bad this year. I feel like everybody started their sales
mostly
early.
digital.
It was
Yeah,
nice. Yeah, it was nice. It was nice. Nice change of pace. So, speaking of changes of pace, we're going to check in with TDM, who has been trying to play it a little bit slower here. This is a team that is at the bottom of the leaderboard. They got 61 total points to need 91 if they want to even hope of advancing to the LCQ. So at this point, they're playing for experience and to live the dream. And we'll keep an eye on them a little bit here, as they can also play spoiler. I mean, the reality is a team like this doesn't have a lot less to lose, and that could be very costly for somebody who is on the cusp.
At the same time, for a team that doesn't really have a lot to lose, I do want to see something. Yeah, I just want to see something from these guys. Wait a second, Invalidos is now dropped straight onto Osaka. Nice try with the blue wall, but it's not going to come out in time. That's immediately a member gone for Osaka.
Yeah. Osaka just loses someone straight up right there. Invalidos with a nice little play. There we come. Comes join the rest of his team. Mex is here, and it looks like Osaka may try to fall back and regroup. They were not prepared at all for what Invalidos just did.
I mean, that was, I don't think I would have been prepared either. That was kind of out of the blue. I mean, he's just got a Spider-Man dropped in.
Yep.
And just took him out. And so that's going to be a member down. Invalidos, again, as you said, one of those teams that was comfortable, but all of a sudden find themselves not comfortable in the top 8. In fact, I think they're right at the cusp where they just got passed up. So they need to have a good game here, and they need to have a good game in the next game as well to secure their spot. And that's not a bad start, dropping in and taking one member of Osaka out.
Yep, you got to keep an eye on those. That's the second time we've seen a launch pad, I think, used for initiation very, very effectively and in this game so far. So you got to be aware of those things. Now, up on the high ground, Invalidos is pretty comfortable. Osaka has grabbed themselves a little bit of a compound and turtled up smartly. They're both deep inside the circle, so they have plenty of time to figure out how they want to approach this. Meanwhile, Red Falcons has gotten not only the high ground, they've taken it, and they have almost center circle. So this is a very good position for them and really fits into the MO of the Red Falcons.
Yep, this is exactly what they like to do. That nade was almost devastating for Maxino, as he is throwing this now towards the outside. They have the high ground onto Osaka. A little bit of a rough spot. Actually, Osaka isn't even in anymore because of that shift, as we see CRJ just launch padding over there on the east. But look at this. I mean, just so much control for Invalidos onto the team of Osaka. And the thing that actually worries me as well is C7 may potentially be coming onto this.
Wow. All right, let's take a look at 9D as they pushed in. We saw them launch in. We saw Northblood, actually, the last player, Boss, who extracted from an early fight, has just arrived in the middle of the circle. He's going to grab, hopefully, a small house that no one will be interested in and just lock his position down. Red Falcons have to be angry about that shift, as now they have to hold off TDM as well as get back into the circle.
Yeah, and TDM have done a good job of taking their time making it up. They lost Karama quite early in this game, and now they're doing everything they can to survive this fight. Red Falcons fighting back so hard, but look at this, not coming out.
No.
Trades nice blue wall.
Very nice wall. TDM is doing it right now as they're dismantling the Red Falcons. TDM has 3 left alive. They've only lost 1, and they've managed to drop 2. That's 3 kills, and not bad, boys.
Not bad at all, considering they lost Karama before this fight even started, so
Mhm.
they don't lose anybody at all. They do a good bit of damage to Red Falcons, and it's gonna be a nice little confidence booster as well as a good position gain for them. Meanwhile, moving back over to Invalidos now, as they're still just putting the hurt onto Osaka. That's gonna be 2 members down, 2 left alive, as Invalidos takes complete control of this side of the circle.
Yeah, absolutely. Osaka really got that circle shift was just brutal for them, as they don't have a lot of options. They're trying to make it around the edge to get themselves into a better spot, but that's going to run them right into DA, who was sitting and waiting. And it looks like Osaka may manage to pull this one off. A good glue wall buys some more space for Lulz, who's doing it for whatever he can. Osaka does manage to get out there, waiting for the last member of DA. There goes the time turner. Lulz goes back inside, gets the spray down. They'll be able to heal just inside of the circle for safety. So Osaka having to go to battle, but that'll buy time for other teams like Invalidos to just flank around and find him again.
Yep. And Invalidos have been doing an amazing job at controlling that edge, dealing with Osaka and DA, forcing them to fight, and really just making it very uncomfortable to play on their side. As you said, look at this. I just hope they don't lose a member just by chasing. Look how aggressive they're getting just chasing this kill.
Yeah, you got to remember though, they were on that cusp as the game started today. Invalidos was only a couple of points ahead of Osaka. So if they can hunt Osaka and basically make it so that they don't get the points, they get more padding. So even if they lost 2, if they survive, that's 3 points over what their closest opponent is gaining. So very smart play by Invalidos. Now Red Falcons did go out. Club 9D is a new kill leader. That's a team that has to put up some big points. The fight goes on as ZRJ is now into the mix. 9D has been fighting C7, but they aren't being left alone to do it on their own. Dariel has to move outside the house. The glue walls are up everywhere. Some nice defense from 9D. I think we need to try to heal up and get themselves back into play here, because they were not ready for that ZRJ push.
Not at all. And again, ZRJ being so good at these traps and these pushes, but they weren't able to get a knock, and especially against a team that get like 9D, you're getting
nice play.
Wait a second. Can he get up on the roof? That would be massive.
He has to double boost his buddy. They'll do a second boost if they want to, up there to the very high ground. I don't know if it's going to work, and I think they also are not aware of Dariel outside. Too long. Out they come. The fight is up. The time turner's around. Oh, look who's arrived. It's Fuego. No, it's 9D. They're just on fire. That's what it is. They're hot, baby. As they go for the fight, but Dariel, C7, he came back out. The backstab is real. Dami gets a triple kill, but remember, they were hunting C7 in the first place, and he comes out and tries to be a meanie, a bad boy.
Yeah, 90 took out TDM, but C7 with the third party. Invalidos now also with a massively messy fight happening over with Fuego, is they've lost 2 members now, and this is just crazy. This is chaos. This is why I love Free Fire.
Look at that wraparound from Calvin. Calvin's going to try to backstab Invalidos here as he comes up to try to buy some time for Axel, but the blue is strong. Calvin has arrived. He gets the first knockdown, jumps behind someone else's glue wall, gets a quadra kill as Calvin and Uziel manage to survive.
This is a 1-on-2. It's a 1-on-2, but look at Joan. Oh my goodness, Joan has got the high ground.
Joan, this is not a member of the original fight. 9D has shown up to cause a little bit of kerfuffle here as he bounces up behind Fuego. They never saw it coming. Oh! Sight from behind! Fuego! Shut down. It was a good try by 9D to push their way in, but at the end of the day, it's Fuego, baby.
That was, man, what?
It was crazy.
Things got crazy, so fast. I mean, we went from different third parties between Invalido on the edge and Osaka with DA, and then you had 90 take out TDM, only be third party by C7, and then Fuego. I mean, with such an incredible fight on the edge of that hill, and then I really like that flank coming out, but it just wasn't enough. And that was, I need a breather. That was a really, really wild game to cast, just because we actually did unfortunately miss a lot, because 3 or 4 fights broke out at the exact same time, and we even caught 2 of them but couldn't catch all of them, so that was wild.
Well, and then it was like we'd see the stragglers. 9D survived that sort of fight we watched initially, then we jumped over to the Fuego dealing with Invalidos, and then 9D showed up at the end to try to get the spoiler, which, to be honest, he almost pulled it off. There was only 2 members of Fuego, but you got to give credit to Fuego, because they got the res, they did not stay next to each other, sort of recovering for
Right.
the chaos they were just in. They immediately split off and went for the high ground, didn't stand next to each other, knew they were in a 2v1, and that's why they come out with the win. So congratulations to them on an awesome victory. We'll take a look at the scoreboard for that match so we can get a better feel for exactly how it ended, because it was straight up chaos. Fuego with 8 kills and 20 points will continue their climb to the top of the leaderboard. Now, we said 9D needed to have a big game to get back into the top 8, and boy, did they.
Yeah, I mean, 10 kills, 19 points overall. Invalidos as well. The thing that's interesting about this is looking at the teams that kind of wanted or needed to have a big game is Northblood only got 5 points.
Yeah.
And they're a team that, have done pretty well overall today, but I'm not exactly sure where they're sitting right now. So for teams like 9D and Invalidos to kind of step it up, even C7 get a couple points there, could put some pressure on there. And Fuego, again, just 8 kills, another 20 points, continue to put up these incredible games overall, and have been, for me, probably the most impressive team of the day. Next to Osaka
and Red Falcons will be interesting, as that was a tough one for them. And honestly, that should be enough for C7 to climb out of the bottom bracket and guarantee themselves the LCQ. We'll find out after we take a look at the MVPs. Right now, we want to see what 9D did. Jean put up 4 kills, not too shabby. Uziel from Fuego got 4, and down from there. So nobody going off like we saw a couple games ago with 8, 9 kills for the MVP. But I think that just speaks to the circle. That incredibly hard shift there was very difficult for these teams to deal with.
On top of the circle, I mean, we're just seeing some consistency throughout. I mean, Axino has been incredible for Invalidos overall, and he's going to still, garner himself at least 3 kills. Calvin, as well as for Fuego and Uziel, 4 apiece. We don't see Axel here, surprisingly, who is the member that got 9 kills of Fuego in one of these games alone. But again, good consistency from the teams. Joan and Domi, 3 and 4 apiece. And so, yeah, maybe not like a crazy pop-off game for all the individual players, but overall for the teams, very solid.
All right, reminder, B and D are playing one more game today. A and C are done. That said, let's take a look at the standings. Fuego has actually closed the gap a little bit more on La Bahia, despite having after that win. So they are starting to look like a powerhouse here in the region. Northblood also looking good. But just like that, Invalidos climbs right back up into the top 4 on the back of those last 2 games. Club 9D is back into the mix in the top 8. Osaka is now in 7. Red Falcons has fallen out of qualifying, and High Religion is theoretically in striking distance. On the opposite side, C7 has guaranteed their position in the last chance qualifier.
Yep.
Dominican and Death Academy, I think they're pretty much done for, but that race for the top 8 will continue. As remember, that's what's important, Godspeed. That's who advances to the grand final.
And it's so close. I mean, you look at the cutoff, Red Falcons and 9D, 166 to 100. That's only 11 points, really. Even then, they're not necessarily that safe as we could have, like, let's say a 20-point game coming out of High Religion, and that might push them. I mean, actually, no, they need more. They need more, Steve. I'm sorry. They need more than that.
I think the biggest risk right now is Red Falcons has been, because of the way they play positioning, they can pull in a 15 to 20 point game. So there is some risk for Osaka, Club 9D, if they go out early. That is possible. I feel like Invalidos, Northblood, Fuego, they have made their statement. They've said we're going to the grand final, and it would take an absolute, I don't want to say miracle, maybe like an act of God disaster for them to not be there. You know what I mean?
Maybe the game just kind of deletes itself somehow and the lead just dissipates. It's the only way they don't make it at this point.
Because it would have to be, they would have to drop and die right away, and then Red Falcons or someone else, multiple things, have to clean the lobby. So it just, a very tall order when you play the math out. That said, Osaka, Club 9D, Red Falcons, that's who we're keeping an eye on in this round. Will Red Falcons' love of center play, will their ability to push to the late game be enough to get them into the top 8? Or will the aggressive style of teams like Osaka manage to win the day? This is kind of a fun case study, Godspeed, as teams look towards the future of Free Fire Esports in North America. The meta is being born. This is the time to decide what kind of team you're going to be.
And at the very least for Red Falcons, look, even if they unfortunately don't qualify or into the top 8 in the grand finals, they are guaranteed to go into the LCQ. And I would argue that they're probably one of the best teams that would go into the LCQ. So the chances of them still making it into those final 4 slots off the LCQ into the grand finals, pretty high. But yes, they would obviously like to do it without going to LCQ, and we'll have to see.
Well, let's see who goes to LCQ, but for now, let's see what's going on in the game. The final match of the Free Fire Pro Series North America Season 1. The inaugural season, the introduction of North American esports is underway. In just a few minutes, we will know which 8 teams stamp their passport to fly directly through to the grand finals, and which 12 have to go to the LCQ to fight through the meat grinder to earn their spots. 4 spots in the grand final. The brutality is yet to play out. There's more action to come, but this is where the big moments are made as DA and Fuego drop right on top of each other.
I'm terrified. I mean, you know what? Actually, I'm not terrified for DA at this point. We already established that. You do you guys. Go for a fight. Do something. Hell, practice as much as you can against a top team at this point like Fuego and see if you can do some damage. If not, you did your best and you come back next time stronger.
But this sums it up, though. Look at this drop. DA immediately turtles up. They go 3 into a building. They grab some guns and they lock it down. Fuego just gets aggressive. I mean, he was literally just chasing another man for a second there. He doesn't seem care. And so they're just aggressively collapsed on this, taking the fight to their opponents and bum rushing. That was 3 Fuego players just overrunning Cobra.
Yeah, and you could argue Cobra just kind of threw it. He sent it. Didn't quite work. He did get a knock, but yeah, the other 2 members, this also seems like very disjointed from DA. There doesn't seem to be a lot of communication. Kind of, we had half the members going for a fight, half the members trying to back up, not wanting to fight. Yeah. And so this is
it kind of feels like mom called him for dinner. Like, let's be honest. So
he's like, yeah, this game's kind of over. Nice try, guys. On to the next season.
GG go next season as DA is eliminated, and that will be what they say. They'll go out. They will not be attaining the LCQ, but congratulations to them on making it this far.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Be willing to play because you can't win unless you're willing to try. And I want to respect the fact that these guys are doing that. And that's, if you're watching, if you guys are coming back and watching the VODs, first off, congratulations. That's the first step to greatness. Second, I have absolute respect for any team that fights their way out of the amateur series and cuts their teeth in the pro series. Whether or not they win, just being here means they put themselves out there. So congratulations on the fight, guys.
Yeah, and who's to say they don't come back next season as one of the strongest teams? There can be a lot gained even by getting last place. So
now a team that's not getting last place, 9D up against Red Falcons. This is huge. Red Falcons.
Yeah, this is a huge fight.
To win this fight.
Oh!
Nice play there. Exploit does go down. Red Falcons on the high ground. Asia does get dropped, and now Dami's trying to find his way around the right side. Here comes Griff from the high ground. Demon pushing in as well. Goes up, gets a nice little time turner, traps him inside. Who's trapped with whom is the real question. All of 9D collapsing on the time turners. Dami going forward with the guns. The release is there, and Red is dropping one by one. Their dreams are dying. Justin throws out the nade to buy some space and has to just run away. The fire is there. Justin takes 2 shots, 1 away from certain death. Johan smells blood and wants to finish him. Justin just trying to get out of dodge, but this may not be his day. He manages to get around the bullet like Neo. Maybe that's the time he needs, but there's not a lot of cover out there. Does he play rocks, ring around the rosy, or just run for the hills?
He's got to try to run, and this is absolutely the correct play from 9D. No Red Falcons is on the cusp, and that is it. The Red Falcons dream and leaving the way from Joan.
Brutal, bro.
That was beautiful because, dude, 9D took their fate into their own hands. As soon as that fight popped off, they realized that it was Red Falcons. It was the only team realistically that could threaten their position in the top 8. Yeah. And because of that, actually, they've also saved the other team on the cusp as well. So beautiful stuff from Domi and 9D.
Well, and keeping in mind, Red Falcons came in ahead of 9D, technically by 1 point. So when 9D took that fight, they knocked Falcons out of qualification, got themselves a spot, and honestly, the closest person to them at this point is going to be High Religion, and that is a massive climb for a team that doesn't look for fights. So that win by 9D was huge, but also bold. Red Falcons was aware that if they won that, 9D's ability to make the top 8 was done.
Yep, that's exactly that. That situation was whichever team won was going to make the top 8, and I mean, it just came out to be 9D. Like moving back to High Religion, I mean, Yes, there's a chance, Steve, that they qualify, but they need like 30 something points, and that is so difficult to get in a single game, especially when one team is already wiped off the board, and those are players that you no longer have kills available on. And as we give a shout out to our amazing observers, Little Fuzzy Seal, of course, Bean, Benny, Parks, and Rose Colored Glasses. Yeah, I mean that was a crazy beginning to the game because it set us up.
And I want to give them props because in Finland, they have something called honest fights, right? This is the idea that you just take your destiny into your own hands. You know, you're sort of just holding the battle and seeing who wins deserves to win. And that's what we saw there with those two teams. They both knew they were on the cusp. They both set up to go to war. And when the fight broke out, you saw Red didn't run away initially. They said, we're going to fight this. Let's do what we need to do. True. And they took an honest battle. And the team that was better got the win. That said, Red Falcons are here for the LCQ later this, like at the beginning of December, and I have high hopes because they're not only going to be back,
right?
They're going to have time to watch VODs and figure out how their strategy works within these lobbies.
I would not be surprised at all if, actually, we'll get back to that in a second. As TDM bringing it to Osaka, this is one of those teams where even though they don't really have a chance, this is a lot of great information and experience gathering for them on this push. So I'd like to see something happen here. They got a knock. Osaka obviously is going to recover quite well off that being the much stronger team, but TDM still can make something happen here and prove a little something to themselves as well as the rest of the lobby.
And I do think that's what we're going to see here is because a lot of positions have sort of been solidified. We're going to see I don't want to say the wheels come off a little bit, but teams willing to take risks.
It's basically the wheels coming off, though. Let's be honest.
And we're going to have fun. This is where it gets fun. Yes. Take fights, try new things, get headshotted. Yike. Fuego is getting some nice plays here as they push up that hill. Osaka has to back off just a little bit. And again, they saw Red Falcons go down. They knew they could breathe a bit of a sigh of relief after that happened, and that freed them up, like you said, to sort of get a little crazy. It was nice, I guess, that Club 90 and Red Falcons were willing to do the dirty work so that Osaka didn't have to.
And just, again, to touch upon real quick, I really wouldn't be surprised at all if Red Falcons make it out of LCQ. I mean, that team is so strong. They're definitely one of the stronger teams, and they just went up against some really good teams today, and 9D Osaka is, as well as Fuego. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed of there.
Absolutely. I do think that LCQ will be fascinating. A lot of the teams that seem to be going there were more middle Haitian teams. So I think that while the group stages were a nice little mix and mash of Chads and Rats, I think LCQ is going to be brutally mental.
Yes. I feel like there's going to be a lot of stalemates in LCQ that are going to be tough. And that glue wall actually kind of dangerous as it is floating, on the side of that crate. So the feetsies will be exposed. As you see a lot of members of C7 taking damage, though. They're still putting up a fight, still trying to get some damage onto members of Northblood. What a shot.
His body just dropped. It's the worst. That's the worst. When you're about to get a headshot on someone, you just fall over sideways. I hate it. I hate it, and I love it. I love watching it. I hate having it happen.
Yeah, it's awful when it happens to you, but it is great when you do it to someone else.
Circle pops up. We're headed towards the refinery. 9D has the prime position. They earned it. Have whatever you want at this point, boys. You've made the qualification. You took the fight that you needed to. Enjoy the high ground.
Yeah, 9D. I mean, that's got to be really confidence-inducing as well. They can pretty much do whatever they want this game. As long as they've been keeping track of points, they know that they're safe to qualify, and so they can just take some really risky fights and just, as you said, have fun with it.
And that is a key. And I will say this, when it comes to battle royales, things that we've learned, the most important skill is comms, the ability to communicate. One of the biggest things you can do is keep your headspace positive, keep confidence flowing, and have a good time. You train hard during practice so that you can have fun during the games. And it feels like 9D has been doing that. Even it being in a stressful situation, they've been enjoying the fights. They've been taking them smartly. They've been having, to be blunt, straight up chaos, which when it comes to Free Fire is some of the most fun you can have.
And chaos is the name of this game, honestly. Free Fire is one of the most frenetic and fast-paced, kind of really guns a-blazing BRs so far that I've watched. And it makes it so fun because these fights happen so often. These teams are constantly thrust into these uncomfortable situations, and you really do get to see who shines and who kind of crumbles. And so far, 90, one of the teams that very clearly shines.
All right, we're going to check in with Invalidos as they walk into the bomb area. There's going to be a lot of things dropping on their heads here pretty soon, but that red right smack in the middle of the circle is going to be a no choice. A lot of these teams are going to have to just walk through the danger zone and hope for the best. You know, it's not often we see the danger zone really come into play in comp too much. However, in these late circles where the danger zone takes up almost a third of the foreseeable real estate, it can then have a much bigger impact.
Blue wall's going to come down again. A nice timing, but there's just 2 members left here. Team Dominican, and I mean, they are going up against ZRJ, who in the nicest way possible, have not really been able to execute these traps just as well. But I mean, they're just running past each other, actually. Yeah. Putting the glue wall up there to stop the approach up top, and another one. Look at this.
Oi. Nice little shots there. He's going for the shoot down. Glue wall after glue wall. ZRJ has been a lot cleaner with their mechanics as well as their attempted strategy. And we're seeing that play out as they kept their pace reasonable. They didn't over push TDM here. And now TDM looks like they are down to just 1 with Eliezer down below and ZRJ holding the high ground.
And this is now a 4v1 situation for ZRJ. They also do have the high ground as well as a pretty decent position in the circle here. So all things considered, again, ZRJ with, they're safe at the very least. They will be going to LCQ. Maybe something here that they can kind of take away, maybe play a little more aggressive, maybe even give up the high ground and put themselves in a harder position to see if they can fight out of it. That's definitely something that a lot of teams like to do in scrims. I think this is better in this situation just because it's in an actual game and they don't have anything to lose. This would be a time to maybe try to put themselves in an uncomfortable position and fight out of it. But overall, I mean, ZRJ is just kind of chill. And same thing with C7.
Yeah, I mean, you brought up high ground. Let's talk about high religion. They've been camping, working the edge here for a long time. I'm actually a little disappointed. I think they need to be more active based on where their position was. Coming to this with 145 and the cutoff being 159, it was doable. It was not a guarantee, but again, like downside, you're still in the LCQ. Upside, you make it to the grand final. So in those situations, be aggressive. Don't play your normal game because the reward. Wow. Little late on the time turner. That was brutal.
That's wow. Okay, so
well, now I know why they were waiting over there. I guess
all those points you were making were so good, and they just all got washed out.
Well, they should have moved sooner. They should have moved. The reason that happened is because they were racing the circle to stay in front of it, and they didn't have the options they needed to strategically play. The second that you let the circle get away from you in a battle royale, you lose a large portion, if not 60-70% of your options are taken off the table. That's the problem with playing Edge if you're not aggressive and proactive.
I mean, with a point deficit that big, why play passive? Why play for the late game? You need to essentially wipe the entire lobby to have a chance to qualify. I mean, realistically, we said they needed 30 points, 30 plus points. Playing on Edge and playing the way that you have been over the course of this event, it's not going to get you 30 points. So maybe they were just kind of practicing what they normally did, knowing that their goal was a little lofty, but I would have liked to see them be more aggressive, as you said. Anyways, moving on, 9D now taking on Invalidos.
That noob tube sucked for them. Meanwhile, we got 9D's got one of their own as Millsy carrying it up here on the high ground. Does decide to drop it down and stick to the AR. Invalidos in very tight with 9D down below. Dominican is finally eliminated. Down to 6 teams, 13 minutes into this match, 22 players left alive. The stack on the left side is brutal as they come on down the hill. And so Millsy is going to follow his buddy around the side as they try to take the fight to NB and C7, but they're taking too much damage. Just too much.
That blue zone is doing a lot of damage on top of the fact that they're just getting picked apart now by the team of C7, and now Northwood coming into the fight. This is going to be an absolute massacre.
It is. Fuego's on the other side of the map, totally happy to watch this unfold as every other team, for the most part, is in this mix right now. Invalidos goes on a nice little killing spree. Now we see Northblood trying to get into the mix, chasing C7 down. Players are everywhere. This is the wheels coming off in a nutshell right now, Godspeed. Elite pushes out of that time turner, goes for the res, but there's other guys there. No one wants to stop the aggression as it has been nonstop. And now Fuego hears blood in the water, and they're running from the distance.
Jordy all of a sudden has turned this around now. Northwood in a hell of a lot more trouble than initially thought. It was just one member down with 3 up, and now it's a mess.
You know what? They threw those glue walls down and said, let me in, and now they're screaming, let me out, as the circle starts to close. The bodies hit the floor. Northblood tries to defend. No time for the res. The backstab by Jordy. That's far from ordinary as he comes out and gets a nice little play, but Fuego has arrived. The fire is in the fight. Invalidos is eliminated. Fuego has surrounded the battle on all sides as one player from C7, one from 9D, and one from ZRJ try to go up against the juggernaut that is the fire from above. They've won 2 today. Can they make it a third as they come in aggressive? Calvin going full aggro into the dip. 9D trying to hold. The glue wall won't do it, and it is hot, hot, hot. It is Fuego as they come out with yet another victory. Booyah, baby, as Uziel gets the MVP. Fuego has been amazing.
That's the second game in a row now where they've won, and one of their members had 9 kills. The first time it was Axel. This time it was Uziel. Fuego is going to be going into grand finals looking absolutely terrifying. If they have 2 separate members, 2 fraggers on that team that can get 9 kills a game on a win, woo-wee.
Right? And they came very aggressive. I actually excited about seeing the scoreboards, not only for that, but the day as well, because I do want to see how Fuego really played out. But they did that game excellently. They held the offside. They let the fight break out. They closed it, and they knew what was going on, so they spread out. And when they came into that fight, they literally were collapsing on everyone else. They put them in a circle and just marched in and took them apart. So it has been impressive to watch their play. But there's been a lot of teams that have really impressed me. Some that have shown us moments of strategical brilliance that I think could become something down the line. Teams that have had the gumption to keep showing up. I mean, I'm going to be real with you. There are some teams on the bottom who were kind of out of the fight before today even started.
Yeah.
And the fact that they showed up and put their best foot forward was a victory in and of itself. But Fuego,
16
yet
kills
another 16 kill game. Good Lord.
I also do, though, want to give a very special shout out to Jordy. I mean, Jordy as a solo, I mean, he had an incredible play on a Northblood. He then had a secondary, really impressive play on one of the last teams surviving there. And so special shout out to him. I mean, yes, it wasn't the best day for C7, but the fact that he was able to make those plays, I mean, that's very promising, especially going into the LCQ.
Yeah, they made it out. They made it into the LCQ. That was the key. They came in with a PMA. They kept that attitude strong, and they pushed themselves through. And that you cannot speak highly enough for. That is the Game 6 results. I would love to see the day scoreboard after we take a look at the MVPs, because I kind of want to see really how big Fuego showed. Uziel. What the?
Yep. And Axel still had 4 as well. I mean, so definitely the 2 fraggers to watch about. Axino has been, I mean, we talked about him ad nauseum at this point. Axino for Invalidos has been probably their star player, right? I mean, he has been the one putting in the most work, another 6 kills for him in this game alone. And Invalidos just looked very good, even though they had a couple slip-up games in the beginning. I mean, definitely still one of the strongest teams currently in North America.
You could tell they came in a bit braggadocious, a bit overconfident, perhaps, on the first 2 games.
Yeah, I agree.
But again, this is new. This is the Free Fire Pro Series North America inaugural season. It's okay to come in with some hubris because you've never experienced this before. And you know what they did? They turned it around. After 2 bad games, they went, wake up, lads, had some sniffing salts, and came out to get it happen. They end up in 5th place overall on the day. Fuego, by far, destroys the lot. We played 6 games. Fuego has a win rate of 50%, Godspeed.
Yeah, on top of the fact that, 47 kills, again, 2 members in separate games, and Axel and Uziel, who each got 9 kills apiece. For an individual player, let alone a team, that's impressive, right? But then you also had Osaka, who just came in and just put on a clinic as far as positioning, wiping teams while fighting on the edge and moving. Osaka's wipes today, I think, were some of the most brutal in the fact that they just erased teams within a matter of seconds, really. And then Northblood showing that they're one of the best teams on the edge and that their gumption and decision-making on when to third party has been quite phenomenal. And so they're going to go through Red Falcons. heartbreaker. But again, taking the fight with Club 9D, that was so cool to watch. Both teams, basically took destiny into their own hands and just went for it. And I love that they finished that fight. And so even though, yes, they didn't make it into the grand finals, they still are going to the LCQ. And I still maintain that Red Falcons will make it through and will be one of the most impressive.
Well, let's take a look at the overall leaderboard. This is the official who will be advancing. The top 8, La Bahia, Fuego, Northblood, Invalidos, Club 9D, Osaka, R15 Oficial, and La ONU will advance to the grand final directly. No strings attached, no catches, no last chance qualifier. 9 through 20, the Falcons, IT Official, High Religion, Wasaka Esports, Team Money, ZRJ, Ozark, Japros for Life, Team Butcher, Skullbreaker, C7, and the Duel Kings will advance to the LCQ. The bottom 4 teams will go home. The big one for me that's going to burn for a long time to come is OG Street, Godspeed. They missed the LCQ by 3 measly points.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's really rough, especially, when you go back as that team and you look at there's so many situations, I guarantee, where they're like, yep, 3 points we could have gotten here, or yep, 3 points we could have gotten here. And that's as frustrating as it can be, though, kind of going back to what we've been talking about pretty much the entire day, is use that as an experience to come back stronger the next, right? If they realize that they were on the cusp, coming out of opens, almost making it an LCQ into the grand finals, there's a lot to build on there, man. And there's nothing wrong with, going home and coming back, as we said, stronger.
Absolutely. Congratulations to all the teams. It was a pleasure to watch Fuego. I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah.
For those, if you're new to watching comp, okay, if you're getting into this because it's Pro Series North America, you're learning about Battle Royale competitive play, 50% win rate is obscene.
It's absurd.
In games where 2 teams face each other. To have a game where 12 teams drop in every match, that's a 50% win rate with circles that are completely randomized is ridiculous. I mean, Godspeed, you've played at the highest level. You've coached at the highest level. You've been to world championships. Do you know any 50% win rate? Tell me, is that something you've ever seen?
I don't think it's incredibly rare. It's incredibly rare for a team to be able to have that type of consistency. I mean, as you said, let alone a 5v5 game, let alone a game where there's 12 teams, 16 teams on the field. And so, yeah, Fuego was just, they put on a show today. They absolutely put on a show, and that is going to be a huge confidence builder when they go into the grand finals.
All right, guys. We appreciate you watching. That's it for the group stages. Come back next week. We've got the LCQ.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a totally different style of play. I can almost guarantee it's going to be far more cerebral, far more sort of plan-based set pieces. It should be a lot of fun to watch. And then, of course, we're back after that with the grand finals. This is the Free Fire Pro Series North America inaugural season. I'm happy to be here on behalf of myself, Godspeed, the entire production team, Free Fire, and all of our observers. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your Sunday evening with us. And until we see you next week for the LCQs, play more Free Fire.